Hail.
Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Monday, the 1st of January, 2024. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
Prompt.
And Robert Kemp.
Well, it won't come out till tomorrow.
Well, that's true. Well, I mean, it could go out today. In theory.
I mean, it could if I could be asked.
No, yeah.
You get your podcast on the 2nd of Jan, people. Actually, well, that might be true. It'll be the end of the 2nd of Jan.
Sometime towards the end of the 2nd of January.
How are we feeling about this last
About this year or last
hours?
year?
Yeah.
It's all right so far.
I mean, it's all right so far, but what's coming up in this year is probably not going to be great.
Oh, we got the Olympics, man.
Why?
What are you talking about?
Did we have the Olympics? Have they reset to the 4-year?
Yeah, it's an Olympic year.
They didn't continue from the off
No,
Kyoto,
they-
Tokyo
No,
timings.
they went back, so it's only been 3 years since the last Olympics, technically.
Doesn't that suck,
And it's
though?
Paris, so not far away, right?
No, technically
Could
not,
even-
no.
Doesn't that
Yeah,
suck
okay,
for the
it's
athletes, though? Because, like,
I mean, maybe,
they
yeah.
normally have 4 years to train.
Yeah, a shorter
That's true.
schedule. But then maybe the athletes that were already trained up for the last Olympics are, still good. They just...
But they're
maybe
also, like,
it's
4
easier.
years older.
Maybe they like having more opportunities. That way they're not 3 years older, not 4 years older, right?
I guess.
'Cause obviously, like, the runners and stuff will at least have their... the athletics championships still run, like, all over the world.
Mm.
Must be annoying if you peak, like, as an athlete midway between the Olympics.
Mm.
I'm sure that happens.
Oh, it must happen. It must happen. But there must, at this point, like, do you reckon sports science has got this down where it's just like, right, well, we know the Olympics is the big one, so we're like ramping up to it, and it's
Well, yeah, sure.
Presumably.
training schedule is planned for this moment. But then I bet a lot of athletes don't actually, know they're not going to achieve at the Olympics, so it's like, that's fine. We'll just use it as part of your training to do well elsewhere.
Well, maybe, but not really, because, like, in order to even qualify to go to the Olympics, you have to win a bunch of stuff usually.
Or
Depends on what country you're from, I
Is
suppose.
it win stuff, or is it like you have to hit like qualifying times?
Well,
like-
that too, probably.
Yeah. And then it's up to your host
Company,
nation
yeah.
who puts
Country.
your company.
We're not quite in a Corpo environment yet. Getting there.
And from Microsoft, Phil Spencer takes the lane number 1.
I wonder if Mario and Sonic will qualify this time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That would be pretty funny. If they release a Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, but they're just in the crowd, and like all the other people have qualified, like Luigi and all them and Tails and all that lot. But Sonic and Mario just have to like sit in the crowd and commentate.
Yeah, they're past it at this point. But, like, hang on, Mario wouldn't, like, traditionally Mario wouldn't commentate,
No.
right? Because he couldn't say very much. Sonic would just be doing all the work, unless it's Chris Pratt.
Well, unless it's new Mario.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
we
sure
don't.
both Mario and Sonic have had jobs as tennis umpires.
Yeah. Literally both
I
of them.
suppose, yeah, but they don't have to talk like every few seconds, though, do they? Like,
They have to say one word.
Mario doesn't even read the score out when he tennis umpires. He just says break point every now and then.
Hmm.
Actually, no, that's not true. As he does do it.
No, he doesn't.
Because
He does
live
do it.
for service.
Yeah.
trying to remember.
Yeah, it took me a while. I just remember the
Tools.
number spinning. I don't really remember. But he does say it. He does say it. It's coming back to me.
I mean, Sonic technically never said it. Because the games he umpired tennis in were too old to have voice.
Oh, yeah, that's
Too
right.
old to have
Yeah,
voice,
he was in the Game Gear 4-in-1 tennis, wasn't he, as the umpire?
My main game on the Game Gear.
Yeah.
What you played that instead of Wimbledon on Game Gear? Because you had that as
Yeah. Oh, I did have Wimbledon, yeah. I think I probably was young enough that I preferred the more basic one that was in the 4-in-1 pack versus Wimbledon, which was a bit more advanced. I had some kind of baseball game as well, which I didn't understand because I didn't even know how baseball works.
Yeah.
Mm.
Does anyone really understand baseball?
Does anyone
I think I
understand
played
it?
that game on Dad's Game Gear quite a lot. I think I always understood that at some point.
Yeah.
In a
You
game
probably did.
way, maybe not actually
Right, yeah.
understanding baseball way.
No flagrant fouls.
Not in baseball. I would hope not.
They must have some like obscenely named foul though. Like,
Well, probably, but it's probably not named in that way. It's probably like just a general behaviour thing, not like a thing that can specifically happen in the way that a foul can in a football derivative. You don't normally have reasons to tackle each other in baseball. I mean, they do the plate sliding thing, and that's like that does have its own rules, but like,
and that can sort of result in a tackle-like collision.
yes, obstructing the plate.
Yeah.
That's it.
Aggressive plating.
I was looking at the Steam Deck and I saw some people call it the Gabe gear, which makes sense. I think I wonder if you could get a skin that has those three little colour.
Yeah, the RGB dots. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be pretty cool actually. But you need a big chunky like physical on-off switch on the top that you can turn off and on in
That's
range.
true. I mean, the Steam Deck is suitably massive. Like it's somewhat Game Gear-esque.
Yeah, just some kind of like hard battery cut-off switch that could talk. And it's like, ha!
Clock. I basically played my Game Gear permanently tethered to the wall socket adapter.
Yeah, that was the only way to really do
Through
it.
the
Like,
batteries, yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's cool that it was portable, and it had its own screen and stuff, but it wasn't a Game Boy.
No.
Like, you can see why it wasn't. I mean, it was relatively popular in Europe. Europe was kind of its like hotspot, but that and the Master System, right? Europe had a bizarre. Those were popular even when the Mega Drive had come out, right? Like those, they stuck around. But let's, you just couldn't take it anywhere. I had like a chunky ass battery pack attached. I think I still do. It probably doesn't work. Attached to the back of mine, which had like finger grips on it.
Actually,
yeah,
mainly because it was so fat that you kind of had to have divots to put your fingers in.
Well, I think like that was still the time when mobile phones were literal bricks. Battery.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's like, well, yeah, the Game Gear didn't have that much battery.
No, and it had a fancier screen than any phone, I would have said.
Absolutely. Even if it was pretty blurry.
Yeah.
The blur kind of added something to it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It looked kind of cool. And colour. Yeah, decent colour at that.
Yeah. It was cool.
Ahead of its time.
2024. It's the year.
The Game Gear revival.
Yeah.
I've seen like an increasing number of people like off the back of the like, was it New Era, New Energy trailer that Sega put out at the Game Awards?
Right.
Oh,
like,
yeah, that one.
Basically saying, now's the time Sega should get back into hardware. And I'm like, no. No, it's not.
They're not going to do that.
That's a terrible idea.
No. Yeah, that's a real bad
Unless
idea.
they want to make a Dreamcast Mini or something, I guess.
Well, they've already
They
made
did
like
do.
Genesis minis, haven't they? Two of them. I reckon a Dreamcast Mini might actually need quite a bit of power.
Yeah, it would just be a small form factor Dreamcast, basically.
Yeah.
It wouldn't actually be a better circuitry or anything at this point.
No, well,
You'd have to build it basically the same, just a little bit smaller.
yeah, the emulation hardware would need to actually be like relatively, beefy enough to manage it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's doable. I don't actually know. I'm not really sure what the efficiency of Dreamcast emulation is like, but
I heard it's pretty good if you're on a...
oh yeah, I mean my PC can do it.
x86.
Like
Yeah.
it's but it's my PC is getting on a bit now, but it's
I mean, clearly, if they're going to make another Mini, you want to do a Saturn Mini, obviously. Get all those
Yeah.
games that no one ever got to play.
sure and focus on the good ones, like all the like the Saturn's 2D classics. Like get Capcom on board so they can put their fighting games out and stuff. All the
Well, that's the thing. Isn't the state of Dreamcast emulation actually a lot better than the state of Saturn emulation in terms
Well,
of...
yeah.
Yeah.
I
A lot
thought
more people had access to them.
yeah, Saturn's a more complicated platform, but just in terms of its electronics. But like, I think that's like come along, come along quite far in the last couple years. Like Saturn's getting there.
Of course, you can emulate most of these things on the Steam Deck as well.
Sure,
So that's not a bad option.
probably can't play Rogue Squadron or Dolphin on a Steam Deck.
No,
That's probably too.
I wonder if
asking
you could
too
do that
much.
on Zach's PC.
Oh yeah, I reckon Zach's would be a bit of muscle for it.
Power through all the audio problems or whatever.
Yeah, it's a little too much for my PC. I think it's single thread power a little bit is the sort of bottleneck with emulating GameCube at times. But yeah, those Game Gear was cool. I just don't really get into handheld gaming all that much. I don't know, since I've been able to like own my own couch,
Yeah,
and television, it's like the handheld has been a little bit relegated for me.
Yeah. When was your last time of playing on the handhelds? Was it like a DS?
Vindictive Pikachu, so not that long ago.
It's been pretty recent that I've actually been using my DS and 3DS. Spoilers for later, I suppose.
But Zach, that's your kind of, you could switch to mobile mode a lot, right? With the Switch, for example.
Well, no, not really. Not with the Switch. But I still have my DS, whenever I need to quickly play some theatre rhythm. That's always convenient. That's generally the cartridge that stays in there.
Yeah, that's my kind of, like, I don't know. Maybe the need for a handheld will grow as Bubba, as baby me becomes a little more like, I need to be in the room with him at all times. And it's like, I don't know, maybe like, because I guess I had like handheld, at least modern-ish handhelds, you can at least just snap it closed at any time. And it's like, this is on hiatus for a bit so I can stop him from dying.
Yeah, it might reach the stage where he's watching kids' TV or whatever, and you're playing on them.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, that's what the Switch is for.
That's not exactly responsible parenting.
Wow.
That's what happens at my house when my sister's kid is over our house.
Yeah, right.
Well, not really. There's a specific time period where that happens. I guess that's the trick.
Or what, the game routine?
Well, no, the you're allowed to watch this much TV routine. I mean, in our case, it's like this is a classic sort of joke, I guess. But in our generation, it's like the opposite problem. It's not like you want them to stop watching TV because they're watching too much TV. You don't want them to watch that shit and do something cooler like video games.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, the TV's been on a lot for Miles, but he's not. It's on most of the time, but
but he's not into it yet.
No, he doesn't really pay that much attention. Like, there's some stuff where it catches his eye for a moment, and then he's like, "Nah, there's blocks over here. There's blocks over here that are different blocks to the blocks that are in my hand. I must have them." He got far too much stuff
for Christmas.
Yeah, far too much stuff. I mean, it's none of it's really bad stuff, I should point out.
How much of it makes noise? That's the classic problem.
A reasonable amount.
Not that he can't make noise with practically anything.
No. He will find a way. He will definitely find a way. It's quite funny. He was picking, like, one of the things he's got was this, like, he likes this, like, early learning center thing, which is basically like a triangle with circular holes in it.
Yeah.
And there's these, like, circular
holes.
Inanimate carbon rod looking like
insert the control rods.
Yeah, basically
nuclear engineering for babies.
It does look a bit like that. And in fairness, that's like the most, like, that toy is like giving me like the most, this is the cleverest thing you've done moment so far with him, because he's
right,
like,
he's capable of doing it somewhat,
yeah. Well, he realized that one of the rods was missing and searched the room for it, picked it up, brought it back to the thing, and then tried to put it in the hole. And it's like, that's a process. You've not done that before.
Some amount of object permanence has happened.
Yeah, exactly. You've figured out what was missing, and then like a day later, kick that green rod under the couch, so there it will stay.
Great.
He hasn't searched for it since. he completed his quest.
But he's not going to be able to repeat the quest. No grinding.
He's still got the red and yellow rods to contend with. He's still got the, like, physical challenge of actually putting them in the hole. That's a little bit of a that's a little bit challenging for him. But yeah, he went to all that effort, and so. But there's this wooden hammer that came with that thing, like a little bit like Amy's hammer, right? Like, just a proper hammer-ass hammer,
and the good hammer, not the shit hammer.
Yeah, the handle hasn't broken yet. Yeah, and you're supposed to whack those things through the thing. Like, I don't think that's really necessary. They're not like, there's not that much friction. There's a little bit of friction, but there's not enough friction to justify a hammer. And so,
Well,
of course,
for you, maybe.
maybe, you know. But so of course, he took the hammer up to the glass of the new TV stand and was like, "In emergency, break glass."
Yeah,
like,
naturally.
Naturally.
like, he hasn't broken it yet, but he was trying. And it's like, oh, I understand, buddy. That's where the Xbox is. I get it.
Did you want to touch all that shit?
Yeah, he does. He doesn't want to touch it. He wants to lick it. He wants to put that all up in his mouth. It's because he's already chewed some Xbox sticks. So he's got a taste. He's got the taste.
Oh no, he's developed an Xbox taste.
Yeah, but he's funny. He's got anyway. That was just one of the more, more interesting things, but like or less noisy things, I suppose. But no, he's got this like xylophone keyboard thing. That's like it's got a xylophone on top, but it's also got keys that you can push that will just hit the xylophone from below. And of course, he just goes bing, bing, bing.
Yep, naturally.
Quite enjoys that. Possibly the most like annoying for us, but not for him thing was he already had a head, shoulders, knees, and toes book that when you pushed a button would play like this sort of like
Each individual part.
Well, no, it would sort of play this. It had just one button that was like all the way through the book, like one of those.
Right.
And you pushed it, and it would basically play like one verse of Head, Shoulders, Knees, and Toes, but in a sort of like gospel band kind of way, like like excessive drum rolls, that kind of stuff. But at least it played the whole verse. Which leads me into one of his, he got another book that was a Head, Shoulders, Knees, and Toes book. But
more than one.
But it has the same looking button thing that you push, and you push it, and in a xylophone tone, it only plays like head, shoulders, knees, and toes, and then stops. And it's like, where's the rest of it, guys?
And it doesn't continue if you push it again.
No.
Well, that's the shit version.
It really sucks. I mean, I suppose it's nice because it's only it's shorter.
Yeah, you don't have to hear it as much. But then you hear the same thing over and over.
Yeah, true. Although in fairness, he did used to just lean on the button on the other book, and it would just loop the starting note. It'd be like boom, da boom, da boom, da boom.
Well, that's just a design flaw. You better only start it when you push it, and then that locks the button out. Really,
he's discovering remixing early. Yeah, and he's starting to do the finger point action of being able to push buttons properly rather than just mash them with your palm. So that's kind of interesting.
To obtain a special dialing wand,
mash the keypad with your palm now. Where's the any key? It's fun times. It's fun times in this house at the moment. Means I don't get a lot done. All this time that you're supposed to have over the Christmas holidays, and I've done nothing with it. Nothing.
Same. It's all eaten.
Nothing.
It's a write-off. You can't make the most of your holiday time.
You really can't. I sort of intended on having another go at sorting out the wiring behind the TV. Do it a bit. I'd done a rush job to get it functional, basically. And it's I can tidy this up. I probably need to come up with a new solution for where all the power sockets need to be. Something like that. Actually tidy up where the light wires go for the internal lighting. So I should probably do that. Of course, I tried doing it while Bubba was just roaming free in the living room. Gnome was there as well, but the moment I open the door, he's climbing on my face to get into the thing while I'm trying to stick these cables to the surfaces so they can't be seen. And it's this isn't really working.
This isn't quite working. Well, here we are in 24. I guess, do we want to do the news of what's been happening in the past few weeks of 23?
Not much, thankfully. I guess.
Not a lot.
Been going on?
Before we do the 2023 year in review and what we've been playing and all that jazz.
Yeah. Let's do news and then review of the year and then what we've been playing. Which,
all right.
I guess we haven't had much time, but we'll see.
I've had plenty of time. Well, we didn't talk about everything I played on the last podcast because we ran out of time on that podcast.
Yeah,
so I've got some spillover from that.
We're a little
well.
delayed with this cast, so because of holidays, and it was a weekend crimbo. Things happen.
News.
news. A24, the sort of art house producers of film bangers such as Everything Everywhere All at Once, they're getting involved with Mr. Kojima to make a Death Stranding movie.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, because often I'm like, that sounds weird. And then I'm like, A24. Oh, it'll definitely be good. Because almost everything they do is good.
Pretty much, yeah. I haven't seen a bad one of those yet.
No. Well, that is interesting. I mean, okay. I suppose if you were going to adapt a Kojima property into a film or TV show, which would you go for to start with? Death Stranding?
I mean, that's the problem. Well, the one problem with doing Death Stranding, right, is just because of how weird it is, right? Like maybe the budget requirements are quite high for a studio like A24, right? They kind of made it work with everything everywhere all at once, but they pulled it off like by taking shortcuts and budgeting well and stuff like. I don't know quite how you could pull that off if you're doing Death Stranding in its entirety, right? With like like weird semi-visible monsters hovering above the ground with umbilical cords and black goop everywhere and gold masked whale monsters and where was it all like? Where did it all look like Iceland for some reason, even though it was America? Like
even though it was America, it all looks like Iceland. Yeah.
I mean, maybe Icelandic filming in Iceland is cheap. I don't know.
At the moment, probably not.
I know.
There's a lot of volcano insurance.
Yeah. That's probably
that would save on special effects. Yeah.
That's probably really cold. You'd have to bring like probably it is really cold. So you'd have to bring like a bunch of like comfort for your cast, I guess, and crew.
I mean, that is interesting news. I hope they make something. I mean, I was thinking that would be cool. Like, I was more thinking Metal Gear maybe, but
sure.
Thinking about the job that they did on The Last of Us being pretty decent with Druckmann or whatever doing it. Just get Kojima to freaking make a film.
What would be the main like through line of it? Because that's the sort of the problem with Death Stranding, right? That it doesn't necessarily have a main. I don't know. I find it hard to decipher what the story. Even now, even though I've played it, I find it hard to even now to reconcile what the story actually was.
Versus The Last of Us, which is pretty clear, right? And it can be straight adapted, basically.
Like what would they focus on for a movie? Would they go down the Mads Mikkelsen route and actually get Mads Mikkelsen? That would be rad. Or would they focus on like Fragile and Troy Baker's character and go down that path? Or are they actually going to tackle the overriding storyline about the bridge babies? And it's like I think there's too much there. There's too much like in the game to actually cover in a film. Because I'm not even sure the game covers all those threads particularly well, or that there's enough story content to make those threads work. Like,
I mean, DS2 is coming, right?
Yeah.
It's not done. Yeah. I'm kind of surprised he wouldn't just do something original for a film, but I suppose you have to. That's the way that they do the risk of things. It has to be
there's usually like
IP, right?
There's usually like a one in, one out with most production houses, right? It's like you do one that's a license and is likely to capture more attention because it's a license.
Yeah, because people know. Yeah,
not because it's a passion project or anything like that. You just do it for the bucks, and then the next project you do is more higher risk, but more what you actually want to do.
Yeah. So do you think this is more of a film for A24? Do you think Death Stranding is more of a surefire one versus the average?
See, I don't know. Like I wouldn't say it's a particularly well-known IP.
Yeah.
Like outside of the gamer space, right?
Yeah. But that is quite a big space these days, so maybe it's enough.
Sure. But it's not like it's carrying weight like Tomb Raider or the Super Mario Bros. Movie.
No, that's certainly true. But that's why it's A24. So I think that's exciting. I hope it'll be a while before that comes out, but I hope that happens.
Yeah. I'd want to see. I just want to see what it would be like.
Yeah,
like, I almost don't care if it would be good or not. I just kind of want to see what it would be, like what it actually is.
I'd rather watch that film than spend all my time tramping across Icelandic USA delivering packages,
liking people's ladders.
Yeah. Oh,
give it a like.
Thanks for leaving this here.
In other news, the much hyped or repeatedly hyped Last of Us multiplayer has been canned. The Naughty Dog put out a statement saying, "Yeah, we're not doing this after all." Supposedly citing that they were worried about it falling into live service hell, which is fair. Like the sentiment towards live services isn't strong at the moment. And a lot of the big developers have actually been moving away from doing projects like that, thankfully. There was too many.
It must be difficult because if you do it right, it makes tons of money.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's like, the problem is like, when it caught, if you were early and it caught on, like Destiny, I guess, or Destiny, even Fortnite, I suppose, counts, because they capitalized on Battle Royale and made it live service by constantly evolving. Like, yeah, if you capture that early, like, I'm thinking back to the MMO space that happened there, right? It's like World of Warcraft happened.
Well, it's like all exploded, the battle royales as well.
Yeah, like it always happens. Everyone tries to follow in the footsteps of the trend, and then the trend dies because it's oversaturated and they can't possibly succeed.
But it's worse in a situation where you're requiring people to keep paying all the time.
Yeah,
like MMOs.
Like MMOs, yeah. And it's yeah, I don't know. I think that's a fair enough decision to make. That The Last of Us multiplayer never appealed to me as a thing. I know they did it before, right? The first Last of Us game had something called factions.
Yeah, they have had a kind of multiplayer.
Yeah,
right. And people sort of, back in the day, people sort of like the Uncharted 2 or multiplayer.
They definitely have followings. Yeah. Both of them do. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sad about this, but it's like, it's just, I can see it's bad news because they basically, like, every time they got on stage a lot or talked about this a lot over the last few years, and every time they were like, "Oh, we can't wait for you to see this, man! Like, it's going to be something real cool," and then they just go, "Nah, it's not working out," and it's like, well, was it not cool when you told us about it before? Or
well, the trouble is that they have been working on it for like literally years.
Yeah,
it's like it's a hell of a long project that's got cancelled.
Like, I'm pretty sure it was in the works before Last of Us 2 came out, right? Like, it's been that long a project. Oh well. Moving on. Talking about other cancellations, though.
Cancellations that Ron might care about.
Yeah. There was an official project to remake Time Splitters 2. Like, official.
Official.
So the Embracer Group had formed a new studio effectively called, that were Free Radical Design, but it was a new studio, so it's not the old Free Radical. They'd just kept the name and reopened, essentially. And they were going to fully rebuild Time Splitters 2 but it got cancelled. Long story short, like, it got cancelled pretty recently, and some information about that has come out. And actually, it sounded pretty cool, actually, because they were gonna mix the formula up a bit between. It was kind of going to be more than just Time Splitters 2. It was going to bleed into Future Perfect a little bit. Time Splitters 3. They were going to effectively do both, but remix the story so that it was more about the female character than the man. I can't remember his name. Cortez, I think his name was. So they were going to rework the story a little bit to try and tell the other side of what was going on. Because in Time Splitters 2, the female character only really turned up, like, as the co-op partner, right? Not that really mattered, because you turned into someone else whenever you stepped into a portal.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the idea. I think it sounded kind of neat, but Embracer are kind of reeling a bit from having bought the entire world,
right?
Yeah, I guess.
And now they seem to be in a little bit of trouble. So they've been cutting a lot, and this is one of the things.
That's a shame.
Yeah, the whole studio got closed, so it's not like they just cancelled the game, but it's another layoff story for 2023.
How many times has Free Radical been shut down? The first time, and then
Well,
Crytek UK or whatever. And then
yeah, I don't know if it got, like, officially shut down the first time, but Crytek. I can't remember. I can't remember if Crytek bought the rights to Time Splitters and that crew, or, like, after the studio died, or if that was a saving throw, if you see what I mean. Like, they kept the studio alive.
I remember I had a friend who worked there called Ben, and for a while they just didn't pay them.
Yeah,
Crytek UK, which was crazy.
that is nuts.
Obviously,
That is nuts. Anyway, what else is going on? Bobby Kotick has left Activision.
Finally, for real.
Thank heavens for that. I'm sure he got a ridiculous payout.
Yeah, like 54 million or
Oh
something.
my god.
For
It's
being
like-
a notorious creep, right?
Yeah. I mean, you only have to look at his face, right?
Right, yeah.
That's the thing about Bobby Kotick. It's not like he's a stealth creep. He just he just exudes it. Bit like Randy Pitchford, same similar energy.
Bit like most CEOs.
Well, yeah, John Riccatello. Put him in there as well. Don't really get creepy vibes off Phil Spencer though, or like. Or is that just me? I don't know. Maybe I know some people have a bit of a problem.
It
with
would be a
shifty
different
eyes.
kind of creepy.
It's probably getting a bit too personal, attacky.
Maybe. But yeah, Bobby's gone. Bobby
Yeah.
Dazzler.
So that makes sense, right? Like, you probably don't need someone in that sort of role now. Now Microsoft own the whole shebang.
Maybe. Whatever restructuring they've got done at this point, I guess.
Well, restructuring probably involves, oh boy, you don't need to be paid that much. Is probably what that is.
You would hope.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Apparently, what is it? John. Is it? I can't remember which company it was, but John Rick, I want to say it was Unity and John Riccatello. He actually isn't the most, but even though he's the CEO, he's not the most paid person in that company. Like, actually, one of the COOs or CFOs or something is actually paid a whole bunch more. I only just discovered recently that they call all those people like the C-suite, right? Because all their titles
Yeah, the
begin with
C-suite.
C. Like, I didn't. That's new to me.
Yeah, it's a dumb phrase.
Does sound like they've. I suppose it makes sense, but it's like they're allowed into that part of the airport that normal people aren't allowed in.
Into
right?
the C-suite.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I'm sure there was other little bits, but I can't remember them right now.
Well, I'll do one. Those
Those are the big-ish
News.
ones for us.
the last news of 2023. And now to discuss the year and what we thought. This is our replacement for the old Game of the Year rewards of yore.
Oh yes, because no one could be asked for that anymore.
No, it's too much.
Too much dead air while we no one combats each other. That's what started to happen with us. We're too easygoing these days.
So starting off with worst audio thing. Sorry.
Let me think real quick about why I played this game. What might have had terrible sound.
I mean, that was one of the best awards we did. We did.
I don't remember anything in particular.
No,
Nothing's coming immediately to mind.
I mean,
of games of
You
this
don't
year.
like Wowie Zowie, so
Well, there is that. I guess that would be in the nominations.
it's
I like it.
It's pretty high up there. Yeah.
Best audio thing.
We've done that before, haven't we? With
Yeah.
best and worst audio thing. Wasn't that the loading beep from
Yes.
Dirt?
Yep, the classic. So useful.
But so harsh.
Yes, it was harsh.
I mean, it's not a game of 2023, and spoilers for what I'll talk about later, but I've been playing Fist, and that has a music looping issue that's kind of annoying once you notice it. Like the song for the levels don't always properly have a loop point, and they sort of fade out, and the next bit sort of fades in, but sort of overlapping a little. It doesn't sound right. That's pretty annoying once you spot it.
Okay.
Oh, and not all
Doesn't
the
qualify that.
and a straight up bug. Not all the dialogue. It's all spoken dialogue, and not all the dialogue gets read. Occasionally,
Oh,
it will
no.
just start reading halfway through a sentence, and it's like, that's weird.
But you can read it.
You can you can at least read it because it's on
Alright.
text on screen. But
Okay.
I mean, I guess spoilers for something that I played, but I've played such a short time, but I was already getting very annoyed by the radio stations in City Skylines 2.
oh really?
Oh, it has radios.
Yes, faked radio or whatever, but
Yeah.
like they did in the last game, and other games have done, like
Right.
Surviving Mars and whatnot.
Yeah,
have
and
their fake
and
radio.
2 Point, right?
Yeah, and 2 Point. But yeah,
Does it have like traffic updates and things?
Well, the thing is, not to get into what I've been playing, but I'll talk about City Skylines more later. But it's specifically about the music. The thing is, it has a specific button in the select your radio station panel or whatever. You can skip the tracks, which is fine. It has a specific button to turn off ads. Fake ads, like radio ads. And it's okay, so you can get rid of those. But hitting that button to turn off the ads doesn't turn off all the other announcer bullshit that constantly interrupts the music.
No.
And I'm that's why I actually want to turn off, because these are bad.
Right, so the DJ stuff effectively is still being said.
And it's bad.
And it's not helpful?
No,
it's not even context.
It is context sensitive, but that's the problem because it repeats over and over.
Oh, right. So if you're not progressing fast enough,
it's like when my city was running on imported power rather than having its own power station. I just heard over and over the interview with the city power manager. He's like, "Yeah, we're buying the power for our neighbours and whatnot," and it's yeah, I know, shut up.
I suppose that's true of real news, right? They play the same clip every time they do a news show that day, but
yes. It's why have the button to turn off the ads if you can't also turn off the other really annoying part of stop music?
Surely that would be a fairly easy fix to just be only do this once per game,
and it's also
once per instance of whatever triggered it.
It's also doubly annoying because the radio stations are labelled non-stop music, which is a lie.
That is pretty funny.
So anyway, yes. What else about 2023's games?
Well, I suppose what are the big games for us this year? I mean, it's obviously Zelda.
Yeah.
And for me, I like Mario. I mean, but it might as well be 1986 because it's Zelda and Mario again.
Yeah, it might as well be the other year that
when the Switch came out,
2007.
Yeah, but that year. But what else?
2007.
2017.
Yeah,
I missed the one.
Yeah,
carry the one.
What else have been the big ones?
Hi-Fi Rush.
I guess.
Hi-Fi Rush. Yeah.
I mean, it's like the problem with Hi-Fi Rush is it came out so early in the year,
and it was a small thing,
and a shadow drop, and it's not really a small thing. It's I'd say it's it's Devil May Cry sized.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a full ass product if you ask me, but it came out at budget price and all that stuff. It was shadow dropped. It's by Tango Gameworks of all people, who you wouldn't have expected would have made this thing, and it kicks so much ass. It's for me that's the perfect concoction, a surprise, a music game, a combat game, excellent cartoon cell shading artwork, and good humor. It ticks every box pretty much. It's a great game. It's a great game. Don't skip Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah, don't miss out on that one. Is that on?
It's on Game Pass. I've already downloaded it.
Yeah.
I'll get to that at some point, I'm sure.
Because of course it is, because it's Microsoft owned, and they stick into their whole plan of putting their first party titles up immediately.
So has that been a success consummate with how good it is? I think it did relatively well, didn't it? Considering it was a shadow drop.
Yeah, so this has been, that's been the story of the year for Microsoft, actually, in some way, that, despite Game Pass existing, games that come out on Game Pass still sell well.
Mm.
The biggest one for Microsoft was obviously Starfield in that camp this year. They were this still sold the same sort of numbers it would have done had Game Pass not existed. They don't feel affected by Game Pass. But
that presumably includes the PC, right? Because
presumably,
especially for Starfield, you'd want mods, and therefore you're going to want that on PC.
Right, yeah. So people might have just bought into the Steam version or versions that are slightly more easily accessible without the Windows Store holding it down. So that might be true. And, I guess it's to some extent proving out Sony's thinking to an extent, that people still want to buy those marquee games and own them, and that's on some level that's fair enough. Because I wonder if hasn't happened yet, but Forza Horizon 4 and Forza Horizon 5 are still available on Game Pass, right? But you can't get hold of 2 or 3, I don't think.
Right.
And you can't get hold of any of the Forza Motorsports before the new one because of car licensing trouble. and this plagues a lot of racing games and a lot of music games, as it turns out, because I I was tinkering around trying to get drop mixed onto an iPad, and that app has been discontinued because of music licensing trouble. Like they can't. They still it's still up on the server. So if you manage to move the app to another device somehow, you can download all the music data based on the cards you had for that game, stuff like that. You just can't install the core app on iOS or Android anymore through the stores because of licensing problem. And you can't buy Fuser anymore. Harmonix's follow up to that because of licensing issues, and it sucks. You just can't get hold of them. So it's a thing the industry probably needs to sort out with digital games.
I don't think you can sort that out.
Anyway, long story short, what I'm saying is, does that mean that the current Forza will eventually drop off? Will Horizon 4 and 5 drop off because of all that problem? Will these be the first Game Pass games that Microsoft have put up that will disappear? Probably yes.
Well, I mean, they could make a move to strip out the licensed music and put something else in there.
Sure.
If they wanted.
Yeah, they'd be in the position to do so.
Yeah, because it's their own thing.
I mean, did we talk about it last cast where it would be great if they had a proper Spotify integration or
I mean, we've talked about that several times.
Yeah.
About racing games in particular.
Yeah.
And with Wipeout.
Yes, especially Wipeout.
Okay, that's a good one. Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah, Hi-Fi. Yeah, it was an absolute banger.
Zach, do you have a kind of complicated PC management game of the year?
I mean, I wish I did, but the ones that came out were bad.
Right, that's the thing.
I mean, I guess Against the Storm is good. I'll talk about that later as well. But that's still an indie game. It's not like they have the attempts at larger companies to make them have turned out bad, like Kerbal Space Program 2 and City Skylines 2.
Okay. I'm sure we'll hear more about that second one.
Yep.
Yeah, they at least have some time to turn around, I suppose, because Kerbal 2 isn't out.
Well, yes, it is, but
it is.
Yeah, but that was the whole thing, right? Because they released it, and it was clearly not a full finished game, but they did actually release it, and everyone was like, "Why did you not make this?" It's the same argument that City Skylines 2 has had, right? It's just why did you not just say this was early access, and then everyone would have been fine?
Yeah.
Except they also still charged £50 for it.
I mean, that wouldn't be the first time that's happened. Charging full price for an early access game, but most of the time, even then, because I imagine that will be what happens with Hades 2 when that comes out in early access this year.
Well, I mean, it's a weird thing that is just an expectation that the early access of the game comes out at a lower price and then goes up to the release price.
Sure, but it's normally only a little bit of a discount, right? 10% or something like that.
Depends on the game, yeah.
Sure.
But there was that one famous case of, I think, was it Planetary Annihilation? I think it might have been, where the early access version was super expensive and the price went down. They were like, if you want to see this early, you have to really commit and fund us for making the game. It was almost, I think that was actually because they had a Kickstarter and they'd done early access as a Kickstarter tier.
Oh, I see.
But then because they couldn't have that then be a low priced thing on the actual store, so they were like, well, we have to price this the same as our Kickstarter tier.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's fair in a way.
Yeah. But anyway.
I just had a thought for this is a real harsh nitpick, but I had another thought for worst audio thing.
Yeah.
The fact that there's no sound at all during the loading pauses in Bomb Rush Cyberpunk.
Okay, right.
It's not in the spirit of Jet Set Radio.
There's not in the spirit of that game having an awesome soundtrack.
Exactly.
That should be playing at all times.
Or at least cover it up with some sort of like Jet Set Radio covered it up with radio static, right? And did some sort of wow wow as the game was loading.
Yeah, I suppose.
There's just nothing. There's
but who gets loading pauses any longer? It's all SSDs.
Except there is loading pauses.
Except that doesn't work on every game.
Yeah, you can't always expect indie developers to be able to optimize everything out of a game.
No.
Yeah, but that's a proper nitpick. It's just
put that in. That's my entry from, I guess, worrying trend category of just now that everything is SSDs and everything loads real quick, stop putting tips in your loading screen because no one's ever going to see them.
Yeah.
Or just give you a menu somewhere that you can open and just see all the loading screen tips.
Sure. Yeah. There's Yeah, I mean, surely there's tricks to doing that, right? Because the game, I mean, if you're being really smart about it, I guess you could learn what your average loading time is across those screens, and then turn them on if if the game realizes like, oh, okay, I'm not going to be able to stream as fast as.
Or you do it like dirt and have a beep when it's finished loading, but don't actually exit the loading screen.
Yeah, well, that depends on the game, right?
Yeah, that does, but.
But
I'd still be fine if,
I mean, we haven't yet hit the problem that everyone anticipated, right? Which was that like the SSD era might actually like negatively impact PC games to the point where they wouldn't be like playable. Because like I guess the worst example was Ratchet and Clank, right?
Because of the streaming.
Because it didn't always stream as fast as it needed to on PC. I'm not saying that's the worst Sony thing they put out. The worst Sony thing was Last of Us Part 1, right? That was a a shocker. Sorry, I cut you off. Were you going to say something else?
I was just going to say, like, I'd be fine with having a screen where it just has all the loading screen tips. It's just like that should be in every game, basically. Like, why are you writing all these tips? I mean, it happens in Zelda all the time. Like in Tears of the Kingdom, as soon as you get like another one of the sages, all their specific tips are adding.
Oh yeah, so it's like get added, yeah,
and they appear immediately. So if you happen to be like going into a shrine that loads really quickly, you just skip them all and never actually know the information about that specific stage until it randomly appears later.
Yeah, I agree with you. Having a tips library somewhere that expands as you discover things seems neat, right?
Yeah,
seems essential in some cases.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I missed that tooltip. What the bloody hell am I doing?
But yes, that's only going to get worse with SSDs in loading screens specifically.
Games will just get less, the double-edged sword of progress in hardware means that software gets worse, right? Technically,
I guess,
because that's just how it works. It gets less efficient. We add abstraction upon abstraction.
Yep.
And so eventually, people will just be using it poorly, and the problem goes away.
Yeah, that's pretty true. The march of progress. But it's just more opportunity to mess things up.
Absolutely. And have it not visible.
Okay.
What other games came out this year?
Big games.
You need to open up our league page so we can see. That's how we know.
That would show the games.
Or happysalad.net, where we tag the games we've been playing.
Yeah.
Only carries the last 10, though. Or however many.
Yeah, that's quite recent. That's biased quite recently.
And also, not like most of those games aren't even from this year.
Well, no,
Deep
but
Rock,
it is
for
everything.
Example.
Yeah.
Is that our, like, what's our sort of continuing game?
Deep Rock is definitely on. Well, I would... Like, it's not been Deep Rock's strongest year, I guess. They had an update, but it's like because what they're working on has got a bit big. The next two projects, the content has slowed significantly in Deep Rock land. There's more to come. They're not done, which is good. But
I mean, I thought Rocket League would never end, but
yeah, it's still going. But Rocket League itself is still going strong. But I'm out,
of course.
and I kind of don't miss it, which is a weird sensation. Like, I guess I was just too into the loop, right? And now I'm free of it. I didn't realize I was shackled so much.
Shackled to the loop.
Yeah. I mean, we got an F-Zero game.
Technically, yes.
Oh, yeah.
After years of waiting, we got F-Zero 99, which I played for like a month and haven't gone back to.
I mean, that's not bad for a free... Was it free?
Yeah, it's, I mean, if you're a Switch Online subscriber, anyone got it. But that's been true of all the 99 games.
Yeah, a little 99 game, a month of playing it. It's pretty good.
I mean, it's not going to lead to a new F-Zero, is it? Let's be real.
No. But, and more than nothing.
And unfortunately, Shinen have moved on to making other things other than fast racing, which is a shame. Mm-hmm. They're probably waiting for Switch 2. That's my hope. That Switch 2 will come out and they'll make there'll be a new fast racing and I can be ecstatic. Cocoon. Shout out to Cocoon.
Yep.
That was yes, Cocoon's cool. Cocoon's really cool. It's only 6 hours long. Zach could bash that out in a day.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that's one that I keep forgetting to download off the Game Pass.
Yeah, you've got no excuse if you're a Game Pass subscriber. Like because it is short. Like I don't know, like, perhaps it is a slightly harder sell if you're going to buy it outright. But it is cool. It's very well crafted. I'm gonna also shout out to Exoprimal, which was a hell of a surprise for me how much I actually enjoyed that thing. And its bizarre tone and its super goofy storytelling, especially at the start of the game, where it is just balls out nuts. I had a good time with Exoprimal, but as soon as I finished the story, I'd like kind of never went back to it. It was one of those, right? Like the curse of me finishing the main campaign just meant I never picked it up again.
Right.
Well, it's not unusual, I don't think.
It's supposed to be a live service game. That's sort of its problem. You're supposed to go back to it and continue playing it. It's multiplayer focused. There is like when you finish the campaign, you unlock ridiculous hard modes that are frankly too hard. Like they're just suddenly the difficulty is so much higher. It's a cool thing. I love its mad tone. I'm not entirely sure the story sticks the landing as much as its premise, but it was a fun time progressing through it. It was just it was just neat to see Exoprimal attempt the thing that Titanfall set out to do, right? That Titanfall 1 set out to do. Not Titanfall 2, because obviously that had its own rad solo campaign. But the Titanfall 1 sort of like radio plays in multiplayer matches have sort of been superseded here by making the missions bring the multiplayer together, and there being story focused missions in like embedded in that only unlock when you get to a certain point. And it's I don't know how well that'll hold up in time, like as the player base dwindles. But as of right now, it's a good time. A surprise. And I like being surprised. I like going into a game and thinking, I don't know if this will be good, and then coming out the other end going, I really enjoyed that. That's like the best feeling in video games.
A surprise to be sure, and a welcome one. Do we have a game that we didn't play that we most probably want to?
I mean,
big hitters.
Wonder's probably up there for me, right? Like I should probably play that.
I obviously need to play Cocoon and Viewfinder. I hear that's meant to be real good as well.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
Have you decided now that you can't be bothered with Starfield, Zach, do you think?
Well, I mean, it's still on Game Pass. It's sitting there. I can do it at any point if I can.
Anytime.
If I can decide to.
It's not the thing about Starfield, right? Is it's not going away.
Well, no.
Right,
and also, it theoretically will still get better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Although, who knows what the mod situation without that is? Because, like, currently, basically, most of the people who were trying to make mods for it are basically at this point kind of being like, "Fuck that!
Right.
I'm not even going to try. I can't be bothered to deal with this ass game in general."
I mean, Bethesda have a pretty good streak. I mean, yes, they release in shaky states, and Starfield, in theory, is the least shaky launch they've had for a while.
Yeah, in theory.
But they have at least got a pretty good reputation of supporting their games. Like, you can give them that. So I expect some amount of, or, a reasonable amount of patchwork going into it. Given that they're still that Arcane are apparently still working on Redfall, one of the biggest disasters of the year.
Actually, one of the least big disasters of the year at this point, somehow.
Because we did get Gollum.
Yeah, and King Kong.
And God, they're bad games.
And whatever that weird Last of Us clone game was called.
Well, there was two of them, wasn't there? Like,
but they were cynical cash grabs, weren't they?
Well, one of them was, and the other one was quite hyped up, and then
was it
got shut down immediately.
Days Before?
Yeah, I think that's the one that got shut down, but not the other one was released on Switch and was clear.
Yeah, it was basically using like artwork and stuff from Last of Us and was aping it, and the game was supremely awful.
Yes.
I don't know if that's talked about enough, like how much dirge is on the Switch.
Well, I mean, you occasionally see it in the Nintendo like newsletters and whatnot, where they're like, "Oh, here's our sale of 5,000 games." It's like, yeah, that just means there's 5,000 piles of shit on the eShop as usual.
I've got a wish list set aside on the Switch for things I'm interested in should they come up. They never come up. Never. Like not even slightly. Don't ever expect an actual Nintendo game to be on sale.
No. Pokemon games if you're lucky.
Yeah. Detective Pikachu 2. Apparently a disaster. Apparently that's just a bad game, not really a disastrous launch or anything like that. Just a bad game. I bet it's the exact same game that I played this year.
Yeah,
I bet it's the same as Detective Pikachu 1. It's just like the intrigue has waned from the first game and the crazy voice that Pikachu had. I watched the Detective Pikachu movie again because it just happened to be on BBC.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And I got sucked in and ended up watching all of it. And it's like, I found it quite off-putting that Pikachu's voice wasn't the one from the game.
Right.
like it was just Ryan Reynolds and not a coffee drinking hardened detective that it is in the game. It really threw me for a while. Don't get me wrong, Ryan Reynolds is better, but like,
it's not as funny.
it's not as funny. No, it's definitely not as funny.
And also is kind of like a giant spoiler for the whole plot of that movie in some ways.
Well, yeah. Well, the movie, I think, spoils the game series because the game series doesn't end on the whole same
Well, sure.
Pikachu is Harry's dad thing.
But that might not be true in the games for all we know.
Well, yeah, I guess. Yeah, maybe they didn't go down that path in Pikachu Returns. But there is a second movie coming, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to have to undo that somehow.
Well, I mean, they already had everyone turn into Pokemon, so you just have however many people you need to turn into Pokemon.
Apparently that's a Mewtwo power now.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Turning people into Pokemon.
That's kind of the whole story, right?
Yeah.
He was going to use
Yeah.
the chemical that sends them mad, but then it puts them into a state that they can merge with humans or something thanks to Mewtwo's power.
And it's Bill Nye, isn't it?
Bill Nye, yeah.
Well,
I like Detective Pikachu the movie, but it's a weird film, right? Because the back half, it's one of those like Indiana Jones start. You can make the Indiana Jones argument about it, where it's like nothing you do is relevant.
No.
This would have played out exactly like this had you done pretty much nothing. There's the whole sequence of Pikachu figuring out what happened at the car crash, like with and Mewtwo being there and sort of doing some stuff, and he's like he just turns up to the parade at the end. It's like and it's all starting to go to hell, and Mewtwo is flying around, and like Bill Nye's there and stuff like that, and he goes, well, this blows that discovery out of the water. It's like they wrote it into the script that was a complete waste of time.
nice.
It's so weird, really, when you start to think about it, but it's entertaining. I enjoy the watch, even if it even if the story is kind of garbage. So I'm looking forward to the second one.
What? The second movie? When's
Second
that
movie,
coming?
yeah. I don't
Will that be this
know.
year?
I don't know if they've
Okay.
said exactly when it will be, but
What other games? I'm still interested in Alan Wake 2, I think.
yeah.
Spider-Man 2, maybe.
Oh, yeah, Spider-Man 2. That's
Yeah.
up there. Yeah.
And did we ever? None of us played Pikmin 4, did we?
No.
No.
I mean, I played the demo enough to say that it was closer to Pikmin 2 than Pikmin 3, so
Right. Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
yes.
Yeah. The story behind Pikmin 4 is it's just apparently the most streamlined the game has ever been. Like they've
Nice.
taken out the chaff and left in the good stuff, and that's really all they needed to do to make this a winner.
I mean, that suffered from the Nintendo pricing problem. That was the only reason why I
Yeah.
Sure.
think into that, because it's like, it's full price Nintendo game.
They seem like the obvious ones for me. Pikmin, Alan Wake, Spider-Man need to be played.
And I obviously,
Yeah.
spoilers for a video that's going to come out on the channel, not even the most recent video,
Really?
but the next one, but like Pizza Tower, obviously. I need to continue playing that, but
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I need to play that game.
I told you.
Yeah,
I've been telling you since it came out in
I know.
whenever the hell that was in the early part of this year.
And I knew when I first saw it that it's like, this is a game I need to play. But like a bit of me is just like, I need that to come out on console.
You need that to be on Game Pass because you're that much of a Game Pass person.
Well, that too, yeah. Because I just keep I just keep picking up and they're like, what should I do next? Oh, there's this on Game Pass I haven't played before.
Yes.
But also, like, I don't know, I don't get too many opportunities to just sit on my own in this office. Like, you know, if I'm not working.
Well, yeah, I guess that is like it's not on any of the consoles.
Yeah, I mean, I did a little bit of that today, but like, you know, so to come in here to play a game, it seems like is less doable for me than to come in here and play and do a work adjacent task.
Is that everything from last year?
Yeah,
that we
I
can
think that's
think of?
2023 wrapped, isn't it?
I want to say there was another big game we played.
I'm telling you, go to the league page, not to our page.
Well, the league, we wouldn't necessarily have voted for the league. I mean, obviously, I'm happy that Bomb Rush Cyberpunk happened.
Well, yeah.
Obviously, like, sure, it's not a full-on Jet Set Radio experience. It doesn't quite do that, but it's but it is good. It's good, if not great. And it's probably got some things that, you know, Jet Set Radio 3 might need to have a little look at in terms of streamlining the whole experience. And
right.
But, you know, you can sort of see the fact that it's like that team's quite small. That team is working on a limited budget, and you can feel it a little bit in that product.
Cool. And I suppose probably from all three of us, if you're going to play one game from last year, it should probably be Zelda.
Final Fantasy 16, of course. That was a big one.
I guess.
It's Devil May Cry in Final Fantasy clothing. It's a character action game. It's no longer the same thing. Like, I don't know. I would play that if it came out on Xbox. I don't think it's actually come out on Xbox yet. Because of Sony. I don't think it's come out on PC yet, even. It's like, I think it's like locked to PS5. There you go.
Yeah,
All right.
I think that might be it.
What have you been playing, Zach?
Let me get my list, because there's been a lot. Including the stuff that we did get to talk about on the last podcast, but I can skip some of it for sure. So the main thing, I guess, well, the thing I've played the most has definitely been Against the Storm, because that actually came out and I hadn't played it for a while, and I was like, now that it's released, now it's time to come back in and relearn all the mechanics that they've changed. Because that was definitely the story of that game in early access, is like they changed quite a lot, quite significantly. Like the whole way the blight works was the last big change before release, and was the thing that had changed the most since I'd last played it. Because previously it used to be that, like, when your industrial buildings process materials, it created the blight, which was basically pollution, their equivalent of pollution. And then as that built up on the building, it would eventually create the blight cysts on the building and start corrupting the main central half thing. And the half had a limit to how much corruption it could withstand. So then you had to counter that by building like the flamethrower station, basically, and then you burn the cysts off during the storm. So that was how that used to work. And then, but the weird thing about it was that having the cysts growing on the building gave a bonus to the building. Like, the pollution was good, basically. So, like, when you had more of the cysts growing on the building, it gave like a production bonus and a speed bonus and like a multiple output bonus or whatever. So what that generally boiled down to was, like, you picked which buildings you wanted to get the bonus on, turned off burning the cysts on those buildings up to the limit that your half could withstand of how much pollution it could withstand, and then just burn all the other ones. Which then there's not really much gameplay to that. It's like
Right.
you just set that toggle on whatever buildings you want it on, and then just as long as that number is below the maximum your half can withstand, then you're good. So what they've changed is now, in order to enable the blight mechanic at all on a building, you have to actually attach it to pipes, and then it uses the rainwater. And you get different kinds of rainwater for the 3 different seasons. So different kinds of production buildings use different rainwater. And you also get, like, geysers of rainwater, as much as that doesn't make any sense. But so that's like a constant source of that specific season's rainwater through the whole year. But you have to find those rather than it just raining on the rain collectors. So you attach the pipe, and then you can then in that menu, it's like an actual gauge where you can turn it up. Like you can turn up how much water that building is using to get increasingly more bonuses. But then obviously the more water it's using, the faster the cysts grow. But the cysts don't give you the bonus any longer. Like it's only you using the water that creates the bonus now. The cysts are purely a bad thing. Okay, so you have to keep them under control by burning them off. And it can now grow beyond the building that's creating the pollution. Because previously, once it reached 3 cysts on the building, that was it. But now if the building that's making the pollution reaches 3, it can then start spreading to adjacent buildings. So it doesn't just calve out just because there's 3 any longer.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it makes it a little more of an actual gameplay mechanic, and actually is kind of like it's actually a decision that you can choose not to do, because the blight mechanic doesn't even exist until like the veteran difficulty. You can just use the rainwater for free below that.
Okay.
But then once you get to that level, then all the system and all that corruption stuff starts. But you can actually get away with just like not actually using it in a run. Like it's a bonus, but you don't necessarily need to do it if you're balanced onto some other way of getting better manufacturing or faster or whatever. So it is actually sort of a choice.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and yeah.
Could you because it's a proximity based spread? Could you have a contaminated town or something?
I'm not entirely sure how it works, because I've definitely noticed that if there's events that cause blight to spawn, it just spawns on the main warehouse. So I'm not sure if that would also apply to if the blight couldn't find somewhere to spread to, it would just randomly appear on the main warehouse anyway. Yeah. But I generally have most of my town clustered in a big clump anyway, so it wouldn't really help me. It's weird because, as is typical, whenever you watch someone else play the game, like on a YouTube video, you're like, what the fuck are you doing? Because it's obviously you want all your industrial buildings directly next to the warehouse, so the travel time is the shortest for all the haulers.
Right, yeah.
Why are you building these all the way over here? You fool. They even let you build little mini warehouses, so you can have, once you do go far away from the main warehouse, you have the little extra warehouse. Build the buildings next to that instead. But yes, that's the typical thing of any game like this, where it's you're not optimal enough, random person.
I want to have a warehouse district away from my central processing.
And so the other notes I have about that game is that apparently it also came out on Xbox, but apparently there's a massive bug with the Xbox version where it just deletes your save.
Oh, that's kind of bad.
So the reviews on the Microsoft Store are real bad currently.
Right, and of course that's shared, isn't it, on the PC Game Pass app or the Windows Store, right? Yeah.
But I already had it on Steam, so I haven't been playing it through there. So, but yes, apparently that version, I think it does apply to the PC Windows Store PC version does it as well, really? Not just the Xbox version. Huh. But yeah, that's bad.
Must be something to do with how storage works on Microsoft systems.
Yeah. And of course, as worst possible thing to happen of releasing a game immediately before Christmas, where everyone goes on holiday.
Yeah, right. Yeah, this isn't going to get worked on for a bit.
So there's that. That was Against All. The next biggest thing that I've been playing, I guess, is Dyson Sphere Program, because they did a big update just before Christmas, of course. Although, this one has been a long time coming, because it's that combat update that they've taken, basically an entire year to work on. So we haven't heard much out of them for a while. But yeah, the combat update is in. It's still not fully finished, apparently. There's some parts of it that need fleshing out some more. But what's there is kind of weird. Because they had to obviously manipulate the idea of enemies into... it's like Factorio enemies, but you have to manipulate it into the idea of multiple planets and, spherical planets, and the idea that you're not always going to be there to defend against stuff is always a problem. That's still the case in Factorio as well, but maybe more so in Dyson Sphere Program, where you could be in an entire different star system miles away and you have to warp all the way home. But even with solving those problems, they've made some slightly strange decisions that I don't feel like I haven't played it enough to fully like get a handle on exactly maybe what's best to manage it and how these mechanics even work. But the enemy has a space hive that orbits the star, and there can be like multiple ones of those in different star systems. Then from there it launches like orbital platforms that go to the planet, the orbital orbit of the planet, and then that orbital platform then deploys a ground base, which then starts spawning ground enemies and buildings and whatnot, and it's mining the planet, which is why they make those ground bases. So, but the weird thing about it is that like those different layers almost don't interact, sort of. So when you're if you're on a planet that the enemy also has bases on, they start sending attack waves at you based on how much power you're using, which is basically the same as Factorio's pollution, except like it's just calculating it a different way. It's like that your total power use determines how fast the enemy sends waves at you and how fast their bases grow and get more powerful and whatnot. Yeah. It's functionally the same. But then the space hive kind of doesn't react to anything you're doing on planets. So even if you're using a ton of energy on a planet, it doesn't really care. The space hive doesn't really care. And if you attack the ground bases on a planet, the space hive also doesn't care. But if you attack the orbital platform, then that aggroes the space hive.
So what is the space hive? Is that new as well? Like,
yes, it's like the space base of the enemy that deploys all the ground bases. So in order to get, if you wanted to get all the enemies out of a system, you'd have to kill the ground bases and then go kill the main space hive to get rid of them.
Just to stop them from putting more bases down.
Yes, which is also weird because you can sort of exploit that. So if you attack the ground base, it doesn't aggro the space hive. So you can basically clear them out.
Why?
This is why I don't understand why it's like this. But you can clear them out as long as you don't attack the orbital platform. And then once you've cleared out the base that's below the orbital platform, it basically just leaves a big hole because that's the hole they've been mining into the planet's crust. And at that point, you have two options where you can either just fill it in, which uses a bunch of dirt and landfill and stuff, which then causes the orbital platform to just leave and go back to the space hive and then eventually be redeployed somewhere else. Or you can build a geothermal power plant on the hole and get some free energy, which also just randomly makes the orbital platform just leave.
Okay, weird. What? Because it's like you've claimed it.
Yeah, you've claimed it basically. Yeah. So you can, and like that's actually it gives you quite a lot of power, which is sort of exploitable because like you can destroy the ground base, build the geothermal power plant, the platform leaves, and it just comes back and redeploys somewhere else and digs another hole, and then you just keep doing that.
Oh, I see. Yeah, right, gotcha.
Because you're not aggroing the space hive because it doesn't react to you shooting the ground bases and destroying them, and then even if you cover over the hole, the orbital platform doesn't get aggroed from that either, it just leaves.
Yeah, so you want them to dig the holes for you.
Yeah, to some extent. So that's weird to start with, but then like the game tries to warn you because you have different turrets where it's like gun turrets and then missile turrets and then like artillery turrets and then like anti-space versions. Well, not really, because the missile turret seems to be the most important one because it can target basically everything, including space. So if you toggle it into space mode, it can shoot the orbital platforms. But in like literally in the item descriptions of like the missile turrets, it's like many commanders have died by accidentally turning on this space shooting ability too soon. Right. It's like it's warning you basically not to aggro the orbital platforms by setting the missile launchers to shoot at them. Which is weird because like that's why this mechanic seems so odd, because it's like it's intentional that it doesn't aggro the space hive.
Yeah. Bizarre. I'm not sure I fully understand. It just like I don't know, like how do you spin that in world building? Like they just have terrible, like the communication, the space hive's communication capabilities are so poor that they can't break through atmosphere or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's like Yeah, I don't know. And then like the actual combat on the planet has this slightly strange mechanic of like you build basically a beacon which acts as a lure essentially, which is how you even manage to control any defenses on a spherical planet. You build the beacon to actually make the enemies come to one place so you can shoot them. And that works. And then you have like a combat control center that can repair anything in its radius. So that deals with having to deal with repairs while you're not there. You just build one of them. Generally, you build like the lure tower and then the combat control building directly behind it, so it can just repair the lure tower and all the turrets that you'll inevitably have there.
Okay.
So that's how you can deal with the waves of enemies, but why not just kill the bases and then claim the holes?
Yeah.
Obviously,
And then the problem goes away.
well, the thing is, obviously, it doesn't go away entirely because it seems like, depending on the level of the space hive, it will try and deploy a certain number of orbital platforms. So you will have to leave a certain number of them there permanently at a certain point because it'll always try and redeploy them. But yeah, I haven't.
So what if it can't? Like, if it can't, like, does it then just try and attack you? Or?
Well, that's the thing I haven't found out yet. Like, presumably, if you let it make enough holes in the planet and keep making it redeploy, it will like be unable to find a space to deploy to eventually or something. Or if your base covers enough of a planet, I guess. But there's usually multiple planets in a system or whatever. So I haven't worried about that. But then I also haven't really got to the space combat portion where you get your space fleets and actually go and attack the hive. Mainly because it has the problem where the tech tree seems pointless. And I think this may be because the space combat isn't very finished, supposedly. But, like, it has the tech tree where it's like, first level, you unlock your space fleet, and then there's, like, individual upgrades to gradually increase the size of your fleet. But fly anywhere near this level 0 hive, you just die. So
Wow.
it's like,
Okay.
it feels like you have to have the maximum level upgrades to have any chance of doing anything to it.
Weird.
Which makes that whole tech tree progress kind of pointless, but you've had to break it up, I guess, to make it more reasonable rather than just having one super expensive tech, I suppose. But yeah, I haven't actually done that yet. And I also haven't quite figured out. I've seen people, because I haven't played this far and I also haven't watched any videos, but I caught a little bit which suggested that once you start launching solar sails, that will aggro the space hive. But I did an experiment where I tried launching some solar sails and it didn't. But I think that might just be because I didn't launch very many. Because I suspect it probably works on the same system of like the amount of power you're drawing increases the aggro rate of the space hive when it's space power.
Yeah. So they probably weren't using enough power to garner
actually
interest.
trigger it. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know what the actual what the high level layer of that is of like getting rid of the space hive entirely. And I think you can sometimes see on the like universe map, you can see the space hives sending out new ones between the star systems. So presumably they can spread and like try and come back to a system you've cleared them out from potentially. But yeah, it's a weird system. Also in a old school Factorio way, the enemies drop items. So you can potentially just farm them, just constantly aggro them, and then just scoop up all the remnants. And weirdly, they drop specific items as well, like special Dark Fog specific drops that give you weird bonuses. Like the first one you get at like level 3 enemies is like a special kind of fuel that makes your handcrafting faster for some reason.
Okay.
Which seems kind of pointless at that point because you're not going to be handcrafting anything anyway.
Exactly. You're not going to be. It's not really what these games are about anyway, right?
No. So yeah, that's Dyson Sphere program. Rise of the Dark Fog, as it now has a subtitle.
Okay. Dark Fog. The ooze.
Yeah, pretty much. And then some smaller things. I want to talk briefly about Rocket League again because I installed that on the new PC. Oh. And it fucked everything up.
What do you mean?
Okay, it didn't fuck everything up. Basically, it kind of deleted my stats, but my local stats. Because obviously, like, my rank and everything is stored server-side, because obviously it has to be.
And presumably most of your items. And
yes, and the items are server-side as well, all the unlocks. but all the local stat tracking, including like the stat tracking that you get on items, and all my car loadouts, that all, because that's a local save file.
Right, yeah, because that didn't come across, I think, on my Switch when I installed the game there.
Right, yeah. But then, so the thing is, like, I kind of knew that already. So I was like, okay, I can just copy the save file, right? But I didn't do that before the first time I launched the game. So it like put me into a tutorial as it was creating a new save file. And then obviously it signs into Epic through Steam or whatever. And I was like, well, okay, so all my stats aren't here, but I was kind of expecting that, so I should go onto my LPC, get the save file, just copy it over and dump that in, it'll be fine, right? But for no apparent reason, because this is a fucking local save and you think that'd be fine, when it connects to the Epic online services, it just deletes it just overwrites the save file that's there with the blank one that has now been generated from the time I launched the game without it.
Weird.
And it's like, there's no reason for it to do that. It's the local save. And how is that data even getting uploaded? Because there's no reason for it to do that either,
so
because it's the local save.
Synced or something? Like,
well, yeah, but that's the thing, because like when you had to link your Epic account and your Steam account for Rocket League, they'd set that up so you could tell it which one was the primary one.
Okay.
And I'd already done that, obviously.
Yeah.
And it was set to the Steam one. So I think what actually happened was I launched it on Steam without the save file. And at that point, it made the new save file. But Steam hadn't checked its cloud to see if there was a thing it should
pull.
pull.
There already was one.
But then when that then synced to Epic, it was like, oh, look, there's this blank save file. I should sync that data, even though it shouldn't be syncing that data, really. And then every time... Because the thing is, if you copy the old save file in and launch the game with no internet connection, it just opens it.
And you can see it.
And I can see all my old stats and all my old car setups and everything. Man. And if you launch the game while connected to the internet and really quickly mash through all the intro sequences to get to the main menu, you can really briefly see it's loaded the old save file until it gets overwritten from the Epic servers. Ugh. And it's just like, why? Where is that information? Why is that information getting sent or downloaded or anything? Because it's a local save file.
Yeah.
And it's also
it has to have registered something with the Epic servers to be like, this is your local machine stats file.
I don't know what, like, it's weird. And also,
doesn't seem unnecessary.
It's also doubly weird because, like, some things that you wouldn't think are online are also online apart from the whole save file, apparently. But, like, when you level up XP, which is a completely pointless stat to track, basically, it's really only used for leveling the rocket pass, right? Because you level up and then that levels up the rocket pass. So my XP level has been reset because that's in the local save file.
Oh, that's surprising.
Yeah. But like, so I've got to get the Rocketeer again at level 70 or whatever, even though I was obviously so far past that. But the thing is, the like that bar on the home screen shows me at level 10 or whatever. But when you actually level up in the game and it counts your XP, that still shows the actual value. It knows that value is what it should be on the server, but like the local save isn't matching it.
That's surprisingly messy.
I'm sure it's just some ridiculous edge cases of Steam and Epic that they never bothered to fix because they took it off Steam at that point and only vaguely keep parity because they have to. I'm sure they'd be perfectly happy to kick everyone off Steam if they thought they could get away with it.
Oh, right, yeah. So what would it... That's good. That's an interesting point. Like, so what would it do if you uninstalled the Steam version and installed the
Well,
Epic
I did do
version?
that. I installed the Epic version just to see, then it pulls the same save file.
Yeah, rats.
I also tried copying the Steam save file into the Epic file to see what happened. It's the same thing. Just that it must just have been that one time I launched it, and it somehow jammed that empty save file into the server.
Yeah, you might be able to. It's one of those things where you might be able to talk to Sonic support.
I thought about it, but like every other person I'd seen talking about similar problems were like, "No, just don't even bother with so much effort." And really, it doesn't matter.
None of
it is just local stats.
Yeah,
slightly annoying that I had to remake
stats,
my car presets or whatever. But
yeah, that is quite annoying. But
it should have always all been cloud, really.
Then I ran into the same problem with Fall Guys when I because I played it for a bit. Well, and that was more serious because it did actually balk up my progress.
Right.
Like I was playing on PlayStation right when it launched because it was on PS Plus and stuff at first, and before it went free to play. I can't remember, was it always free to play? Anyway, I was playing on PlayStation for a bit, and then I tried playing it on Xbox because Kippers wanted to play it.
Yeah.
And made an account, merged it, and it took the Xbox, not the PlayStation side. So it's like, oh great, now I've got nothing.
Yeah, that is worse.
Yeah. It just done. Not that I'd played Fall Guys a lot, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I wasn't too fussed by it. I did contact their support, and they did try and sort it. They failed, but they did try.
So yeah, that's why I'm with Rocket League. Slightly annoying, but not actually a problem. I'm fine with it. I mean, if I want to, I can still just copy that old save file and just boot it in offline mode and look at it.
Yeah.
It still exists.
You could,
I've still technically got that data.
you could backwards engineer the save file and then sum it up in some other tool.
Or just take a screenshot for the memories.
for the memories.
It's funny because when it's like my XP is on the main screen, it's like, you're level 20. And then when it actually levels up in game, it's like, you're level 4,000. It's like, yep.
I wonder what it presents to other players, presumably the server version.
I don't think you can see that anywhere.
No,
Can you
that's
for
true,
other people?
because it's just the rank, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you unlock the titles.
The title, yeah.
But then those are just unlocks. Yeah. So I still had all those, which is also weird because it's like, oh, I've got all the avatar borders up to whatever Rocketeer level or whatever.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, that's the weirdness of Rocket League's syncing problems. City Skylines 2, I played it for like basically no time at all before deciding I probably didn't want to play anymore. Not just because it runs real bad.
Like, even on your new machine?
Yes.
Oh, man.
It's like, now I know what my machine sounds like when all the fans are on. Because it maxed everything out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's real bad. I mean, admittedly, I just launched it and left everything at full. I didn't bother to try and change anything. And then when I later thought, oh yeah, I've got that GeForce Experience thing on my PC, don't I? So I can see what their recommended settings are, because that's kind of one of the things that GeForce Experience does, is automatically set recommended settings on games. So I went and looked at the Sea Skylines one. It's like, yeah, these are a lot lower.
Yeah.
Nvidia knows that this game is not going to run well.
And did it run better?
I haven't tried it.
Okay.
But as I say, I played it for that one session and was like, maybe I don't want to play this. But that's not the main reason, of course. The actual reason was because I looked at the simulation for 2 seconds and was like, oh no. Because that's the kind of thing that I'm worried about. Basically, as soon as I got to a moderately sized town and started getting a traffic jam going, and then I went and looked at why their traffic jam was going, I was like, oh, this simulation is not great.
Well, what was happening?
Okay, so I'm going to try and explain this, which is going to be difficult with words. But so imagine you have a main road with like 4 lanes, so it's 2 on each side. And then branching off from that, you have a one-way street. So it's a turn-in street off the main road. So that's created a junction.
Yeah.
And in order for cars to drive into that street, you'll want traffic lights to stop the flow of traffic so they can cut across. And it doesn't.
Oh, what? The lights never turn?
Well, I think what it's doing is that it doesn't actually, do anything fancy. It just assumes that it's a 4-way junction.
Right.
So all it does is stop one direction and then stop the other direction. But because the other direction is only an inbound,
oh no,
it never actually. So when cars are trying to turn across traffic, they never get a chance to actually do that because they're trying to. It's like it's allowing them to turn, but there's still always traffic coming the other way, so they always have to wait, and then it jams up the junction, and it just doesn't. It's like
it doesn't force. It doesn't have a right turn or left turn. I suppose if it's American,
it doesn't have a turning signal period where only the turning happens.
Okay. So don't build roads like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, that's what I had to do in original City Skylines or even SimCity back in the day, where you're like, obviously you need to exploit how this game's AI actually works to make it work better. But like, you shouldn't have to do that at this point, surely.
No, that seems like an obvious one.
And also,
someone must have tried it and then been like, "Oh, that don't work."
well, and obviously that was fixed by mods in Cities Skylines 1. You could, if you wanted to, you could get with like the traffic manager mod, you could go as far as like literally programming your own traffic signal settings.
Right, but that sounds pretty useful.
That sounds really cool, but obviously that's like that level of specificity is a bit like that has to be a mod because that's no actual real game developer is going to make a game like that complicated, right?
No,
even though they fucking should.
Well, no, but they could at least like abstract it out so it's not like full on sequencing.
Well, I mean, realistically, it should just automatically deal with that. It should detect what the junction needs to function and make that work.
And maybe you have a upgrade to like have smarter lights or something that can read like, oh, there's no traffic here, so maybe I can change the
something like
sequencing.
Because there is one option that has made it into Skylines 2 that used to be in mods, which is if you have to unlock it, but it's like a low-level unlock. But you can change a junction from being traffic lights, stop signs, or yield. So if you want to, you can get rid of the traffic lights and just make it a yield junction. But that doesn't really help. Because in this specific case, you'd actually want traffic lights for the turning traffic. Making that stop or yield doesn't actually help the situation. That's generally for much lower volume junctions where it's like, well, these traffic lights are just going to make everyone wait too long and we might as well set it to yield.
Sure.
So yeah, it's just like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, "Oh no, I don't want to play. I don't want to have to game this game. I want to actually just play this game like I would a real city building thing." So yeah, maybe I'll go back to it, but I don't know. It will just be. It will
maybe just give it a bit more time till it's out of not early access.
Well, yeah, wait to see if they improve things, which presumably they might, but they're more worried about the performance aspects at the moment.
Yeah, understandably, I guess, because like if it's literally limiting players from giving it a go because it has such ridiculous requirements, then
and obviously most people don't even care about that level of simulation.
Sure.
It's only crazy people like me who actually care about looking at why a traffic jam is actually happening.
Setting the bottom line is the problem.
And also in relation to it running real bad and the graphics situation, it has so much ridiculous aliasing, I was not actually fully convinced that the anti-aliasing even works.
Right.
Because obviously it's a city where there's a lot of things that are going to alias, like, fences and power lines and road markings.
Yeah.
Which makes it very obvious that it's absolutely awful.
Or things that probably shouldn't, they are going to do that and just not render.
Well, I mean, that is part of the problem of why it runs so badly at the moment, is like they just haven't done much LOD work.
Yeah.
Supposedly one of the big performance hogs before a very early patch was that the people walking around in the town had fully rendered teeth.
What?
It's like, you're never going to see that, so why are they there?
That seems so excessive.
Yeah.
Maybe focusing on the wrong things there.
Well, that just sounds like someone imported a model and didn't properly think about it.
Yeah, that's an unoptimized store asset or something.
Yeah. But yes,
they need some of that Unreal 5 nanite
for their teeth.
To reduce the teeth. Why aren't they just cold if the mouth is closed or something like that? Or
I mean, why do people even need to open their mouths?
Yeah, in that game. Like, I suppose if you want to literally zoom in and have like this is the city and this is my cafe scene in my city, or like I don't know, then maybe there's.
Also, apparently, there was a big problem with rogue packs of dogs because the code that was making people walk their dogs wasn't working correctly. The dogs would just get free, independent, and then there'd be a bunch of them wandering around because they never got deleted.
Oh, that's pretty fun. Wolves. Urban wolves.
So yeah, that's City Skylines 2. I don't know if I'm going to go back to that. I'm too distracted by all these other games. As you can tell, I overcame my decision paralysis of playing stuff on Game Pass and was suddenly like, I'm going to play all the things.
Do all of them.
See, it just gets easier, right? Because eventually you start whittling down the list of things you actually want to play on there.
Sure. And fortunately, I may be able to not be Rob and have to get achievements and everything. Because I don't care about achievements.
That's slipping with me a bit. Like, I like to get, like... I like to feel like I should get like 50% in a game that I've played, right?
Sure.
Especially if I've played it to completion. There's a bit of me that's just like, I've at least earned 500 of the 1,000 points in this, right? That's like kind of my trigger, I suppose.
Speaking of a game that I have been paying attention to achievements for, but only for like the challenge, I guess. Power Wash Simulator.
Right, yeah, I did see that pop up in my Xbox list.
I played quite a bit of that because it's,
Is it soothing? Is it calming?
Yeah.
Is it zen?
I mean, it is definitely a game you could play a podcast with,
Right.
for example. And there's not even any music or anything apart from in the level where you're cleaning a carousel.
Is it right? Is it not too much? I don't know. Work.
I mean,
Playing that game, like,
isn't any simulator game like that too much like work?
I mean,
Too much like an actual job.
to an extent, but there's a bit of me that just thinks like, surely this is just it's like a pixel hunting game, but like you actually do have to hunt every pixel.
Kind of.
Like,
I mean, I can safely say that Dan would never be able to play it because it's like an RSI generator.
oh, of course, yeah, 'cause
Right,
it'll be move
okay.
one way, move back, move one way.
Yes, because you're constantly sweeping the mouse backwards and forwards over things.
Yeah, but you could probably write an auto hotkey script to do that for you.
Maybe. But again, that's part of the gameplay because you're like, the further away you are from the surface, the less pressure you're putting on it, so the less effectively it gets rid of the dirt. So you're constantly having to like climb around and hilariously go prone.
Okay.
I mean,
What?
the icon in the
Snipe the dirt out.
the icon in the UI shows it as going prone, but when you see like the time lapse replay that shows you going around and cleaning stuff, you're actually just crouching down.
Oh, okay.
But it's funny that the UI icon just like uses the prone.
That is pretty funny. I hope one of the costumes is a ghillie suit.
That would be funny, but it's not. Just colours. But yeah, you have to get right up in there. And then it does like it accounts for it in some ways where it's just like the larger the surface, the less exact you have to be on the cleaning.
Okay.
So you can get away with missing a few little bits
Sure.
on an extremely large surface. But then obviously that problem is in the reverse, where when it's a small thing, you have to be super thorough and come at it from every angle. If there's like a lip or whatever, where you have to like, I have to get behind this because there's a tiny bit of dirt back there.
Power wash a small item. I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of things that you probably shouldn't power wash in this game. Like, I don't know, ancient statues or gas canisters.
Right.
And also, it's not actually in any way like a simulator, which I kind of, if they ever do like a power wash simulator too, I'd kind of like them to do like just a little bit more simulation.
A little more sim.
Because
Well,
like,
it's not sim enough for you.
yeah, because like, if you're cleaning something, you should clean it from the top down because then the water will start washing away the dirt below it, right? But it doesn't simulate that.
Yeah. You just gotta peel it from wherever.
Yeah. And it also, like, it doesn't...
And surely, yeah, that should make a mess of the floor if you're like.
Well, yeah, and it
and then
also...
you've got to clean the floor.
It also doesn't have any, like, damage, like, simulation. Like, you can't overpower something, like, wash it too hard,
You smash the glass on a Porsche or something.
or, like, scrape the paint off something by
Right.
power washing it too vigorously. But yeah, I think that could...
I mean, they've clearly left themselves some room for a sequel.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think that would be kind of cool. And it also has a system for, like, you can have a nozzle that adds detergent or whatever, and you can buy specific cleaning fluids for specific types of material. So it's like,
I see.
this
Yeah.
building's made mostly of wood, so I'll need the wood cleaning material. Except that's like, you can't, the detergent nozzle...
To make softer water or something.
Yeah, I don't know what that means really, but like that nozzle is just like a spray nozzle, so it's only for covering large areas. It's not for like getting all the... Basically, you just, when you buy that, you just vaguely spray across all of the surfaces of that material, and then that's it. And then you come back with the actual pressure washer to actually clean it all.
This is so weird. Is this Best Sim 2023 or is this?
It's a well old game.
Oh,
It's
is it?
not
Is it
even
not
not
this year?
this year, not even slightly.
I assumed it was early this year, but
But yes, that's Power Wash Simulator. It's got a fucking lot of levels. You'd be surprised for thinking it's like this weirdly tiny indie game. It's like it keeps going. And it also has a story where like you're constantly getting random texts from sometimes the people you're working for and sometimes just like your friends or whatever talking about
hey,
what
Nico, do you want to come bowling?
kind of. Except most of the time it's like, hey, you, do you want to come power wash this thing? I mean, I guess those are business texts, I guess.
This is like in Need for Speed, where it's just like, hey, do you want to like not steal this car? Like,
Kind of. But yeah, there's a story about, well, it's kind of obvious from the start that it's about like a volcanic eruption, which is why everything is so fucking dirty. Except weirdly, it's like everything is dirty before the volcanic eruption, and then when the volcano starts erupting, people are like, oh, it's going to undo all your good work, making it clean. But why was it that dirty the first time round? Maybe another volcanic eruption that happened in the past.
Desert ash, desert sand, like.
But then
it
starts getting typically indie game crazy, where it's just like, oh, we've unearthed this ancient monument, and then when you clean it, it fires a beam that stops the volcano erupting.
Okay.
For some reason.
Okay.
And the mayor's cat has gone missing, except then when you're cleaning a different ancient statue, you just see like this train of cats wandering through the desert because they're all escaping the volcano that's about to erupt. And then when you get to the dockyards to clean the boat, all the cats are just there at the coastline, sitting there waiting to get off the island.
I hope there's a scene like where you're stuck in the middle of a desert somewhere, and just over a ridge, just all these cat heads just leer over.
I mean, that is close to what it's like. But yeah, I don't know how this is going to resolve. How are we going to solve the problem of... Also, apparently the mayor was diverting a river to a secret mining rig that might be why the volcano is erupting.
Surprisingly deep lore.
Yeah.
Power wash lore.
So yes, that's Power Wash Simulator.
Alright. I'm beginning to understand why this is a thing a little more. Not because of the actual power washing, but the rest of it is at least intriguing.
I don't think the story counts for much.
Okay.
There's just like a couple of text messages per level. And sometimes they're not about the story, sometimes they're just random bullshit. The guy talking about Bigfoot or whatever while you're cleaning his treehouse in the woods.
Hey, would you like some cheesy gubbins? I've got some cheesy gubbins.
And then I guess the last thing to talk about was the thing me and Rob played, conveniently.
Yeah.
Transition.
Segue time.
Transition.
It was RoboQuest, the very boringly named game that's actually kind of good.
Yeah, I never would have touched this had you guys not you pointed it out and been like, no, this is actually good. Because it's RoboQuest. Why would you call a game that? Honestly,
I mean, every time I'm thinking about naming I'm thinking about what would I call a game? It's just like there's no names left. They've all been used.
Apparently not this one. I guess
I bet there is another game called RoboQuest.
Must be, right? It must be something presumably in the mobile space or on some ancient platform like the ZX Spectra or something.
Yeah, probably.
RoboQuest, honestly, and I don't think it's like key art does it any favors. Like when you combine that and the word RoboQuest, you immediately just go, "That's probably a mobile game."
Yeah, I mean, that is.
It gives off the wrong vibe, and then you watch the trailer, and then you're like, "Oh damn, this actually looks pretty sweet."
Yeah,
and it turns out this game's pretty sweet.
Yep. So it's a roguelike first-person shooter with some sort of Doom-esque elements, I guess.
I mean, it's got the sort of boomer shooter speed, right?
Yeah, you're fast, and the enemies drop health when they die, so you kind of have an incentive to constantly be moving around the room, collecting the stuff.
There's a even though there's ranged weaponry, there's a little bit of get up in that ass about it, you know.
Yeah.
As the term has now become for games that force you to get aggressive and close and regular, perhaps.
And it has some pretty funky music.
Yeah,
well, not funky.
I mean,
wrong word, I suppose.
I mean, it's like hard EDM, but it's like verging on industrial. But it's pretty cool. I like it. I like it a lot, especially the level we just got to where it suddenly switches up to drum and bass. It's like, oh, that's neat. I'm digging this.
Yeah.
I mean, the third level has a slightly weird thing where it's sort of it has the riser for the drop, so to speak. It goes and it's ready to go, and all of a sudden it just cuts back to the start. Well,
it's because it's got to run that loop continuously while you're in the waiting room.
You're in the waiting room, yeah, and then you go into the level and it just cuts back to the riser, and it's like, okay, you did that better elsewhere in the game, but
yeah,
but no, the music is rad. I need to It's one of those soundtracks where it's just like, oh yeah, I always meant to go and figure out how to properly make like cyberpunk-esque synths, and that fat noise that you associate with that. It's pretty cool. It's cool.
And then it's a roguelike shooter with a reasonably large amount of guns.
Yeah,
are fairly distinct.
plenty I've not used yet.
They're not quite as distinct as like Gungeon, obviously, because Gungeon is a comedy gun game.
Sure.
Yeah.
You kind of, and again, that's sort of the problem that Gungeon has left for everyone. Right?
Yeah.
That it's like if you're not, and Isaac to a certain extent as
Yeah.
well. Like if you're doing a roguelite and you're not hitting that level of random.
Yes, I know. This game also definitely doesn't seem to have as much like combo potential as Isaac, obviously.
Sure. And the perks and stuff haven't felt like super impactful and things like that.
No, it's like you can somewhat make a build, and it does. When you're upgrading your character, when you level up and you get your character perks, they do have like something of a tree. Like when you unlock one thing, it then subsequently has upgrades that will also appear the next time you level up.
Yeah, there's like a class.
So you can choose those.
A class specific progression. Yeah, you pick something else and it goes, oh, you picked this, so you can improve that if you want. Or,
yeah. So you can sort of make a build,
but it doesn't like outline what that tree is. You have to
you just have to see it. I mean, you can look at it later because there's that in the class picking.
Right, yeah,
it kind of just lists everything you've seen.
Yeah, it shows you things you've done.
Which then, obviously, the other thing is it tries to encourage you to experiment by, if you want to unlock the weapon cards, you have to get a certain number of kills with weapons. But then those weapon cards don't do anything. It's just
a collectible.
Just a collectible, but that's a minor incentive to try out everything.
Like that bloody mortar. God, that was difficult to use. Just lobs such a ridiculous arc upwards from where you're aiming.
Right.
And it's really hard, like in the thick of battle, it's really hard to put some red X on the floor where it's going to land, but it's really hard to actually get that to go where you want it to go.
Right.
Because it's not just like a straight grenade, or it doesn't feel like a straight grenade launcher, so I'm not like arcing the shots. But anyway, I don't know. That was weird. That was a weird ass gun.
Yes.
Did a lot of damage if you managed to like zero it in, but not helpful in the thick of battle.
And but then it also, so the problems that I've had with it so far have been, well, firstly, there's a fairly obvious, like, severe difficulty spike at about the midpoint of the level chain, which is about where we got to.
Oh, is it? Is that okay? We're at the spike.
Pretty much. It's just like, as soon as there's those enemies that do beam attacks and those big dudes in the previous level, it's just like, you just take a load more damage really abruptly.
Sure.
Like, you can be totally owning everything up to that point, and then those levels just destroy you.
Struggle, yeah.
I don't know if that is just an actual difficulty spike or something like,
or if we're not speccing right, or we're missing something.
Yeah, like we haven't found the tactics to it yet. And then the other problem that I've sort of had with it is just like, it has a bunch of secrets. So obviously you're doing these different runs and it forces you to do the runs because you're having to do something where you've gone past the point where you need to come back to the next time.
Sure, yeah.
So you have to redo things.
You get a thing that will let you do or go into a door or something like that you couldn't go into in the next round.
And then, like, if you actually, there's a place where you can see the world map, so you can see where the branches are. But the branches are like different lengths for sure. Like, there's one path where you can get like 2 extra levels before the level we got to.
Oh, interesting.
So it's like, I'm not sure how that's balanced.
Right, because the only branch I know about is the same length.
Yeah. Because like in Gungeon, you have the 2 secret levels between the first and the second and the second and the third level.
Yeah.
And those are just like, if you can handle that much more difficulty, because they are slightly more difficult than the surrounding levels, that's just a bonus because you get like an extra chest or whatever.
You get more gear. Yeah.
So I'm wondering whether that's going to be the same in this game, where it's just like, is the longest path always going to be the preferable one in the end?
And you're encouraged to do more combat in this just because of the XP system, which isn't always a thing in roguelikes, right? Because you get XP for killing stuff.
Yeah, and I wonder how that scales as well, because I haven't paid enough attention to numbers or whatever.
Right,
like,
yeah.
When you do those 2 extra levels,
the game is quite good about popping up every number that happens, right? Like every single thing. Like you gain XP, there'll be a little pop up in the XP bar. You lose health, there'll be a negative red number pop up over your health bar to show you how much you've lost, and it's There's numbers everywhere.
Yeah.
And even one of the like loading tips, talking about loading tips, was like, don't worry, we're tracking decimal points and like we're just rounding it up to whole numbers. It's like there's a whole bunch more going on.
Yeah. Although speaking of one number it doesn't have, speaking of another problem, DPS.
Yeah,
It has damage, it has fire rate, it doesn't have
It'd be
DPS.
really helpful to have DPS on the weapons you pick up. Yeah, because it encourages you to do things real fast as well.
Yeah, because there's a time bonus for each level.
So, like, if you're standing around spending time looking at a weapon, trying to go, is this better? Then, like, outside of the hub anyway, where it gives you some stuff.
Once again, this is another thing that I need to actually stop and look at one time to see how it actually works, because it does the like green arrow, red arrow thing, but like, does that when it says damage and it's clearly a literal damage number, does the green arrow there still account for DPS? Because I feel like it might.
I'm not sure it does. I think if it does like more damage for one shot, then it's always been green, even if the fire rate's been like
I don't know,
slow.
But again, don't know because I haven't stopped to look.
Yeah. But
it would be better for it to just have a DPS number, and that would be the number you'd need to look at.
Yeah, I mean, like any like MMO player or like Diablo player would do, right? They'd look at that and go, "Oh, that's better. I'll have that." But it's still fun.
Yep.
I mean, it's still fresh for me. Like I've only played it for like a couple of hours at this point.
Yes.
I'm enjoying playing a fast-paced shooter on PC. Something I've probably not done for a year. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I was like, when I first started playing, I was like, have I just like not played one of these for so long that I've forgotten what it's like? But then I was like, well, I still play Dirk, and that's not slow exactly.
Presumably, I could play it on Xbox as well. And cross-play would sort us out. I don't know quite how the voice situation would work in that instance.
Yeah, I haven't seen if it has in-game voice.
I'm not sure it has its own system.
No.
So that might be a slight. Well, I could I could do the stupid thing and put some the pods in my ears and run Discord on my phone. Oh God, Nintendo were right.
Yeah.
Oh no.
They were not right.
No.
Yeah, so I don't know how that would work, but it does have, in theory, have crossplay. It can, on PC at least, it would work with the Xbox friends list, and it will work with the Epic Store as well, as it kept forcing me to do. Like,
well, it will work when it works, which is the other mystery problem we've been having.
That's a bit problem because it seems to be okay for you, but like when I load into the game, it doesn't seem able to sort multiplayer out half the time. Like it won't create the session ID you need if you're going to host, and it won't create the we just can't access the friends list for ages.
Yeah,
like and sometimes the first time we played it, it just took a while, and then seemed to come back to life. Like I don't know, I went back to the main menu, went back to the game. Went to the multiplayer menu and it had sorted itself out. And when we tried it today, like I had to reboot the game in order to get it to come alive, and then it was okay. So, fortunately, it loads pretty quick.
Yeah, but, like, I mean, obviously, tiny game. Well, relatively tiny.
Yeah, but it's neat. I'm enjoying it. Can't speak to its legs at this point, but yeah, I'm enjoying it at least. Something else for us to do that's not Dirk.
Yep, sure.
Okay.
Not that we've had much time to
no, I've not had a lot
Dirk
of time
either.
to do much of that, which is a bummer. But then I'm okay. I'm sort of okay with that until some new content happens.
Well, sure, until June.
But I still haven't unlocked all the weapons or anything like that for all the classes.
Well,
so there's still things to do.
There's that new content for you still.
Yeah, there's still things to do and discover, so that's fine. Is that a segue?
Yes, that was the segue.
Robo thingy.
RoboQuest.
Yeah.
Robo generic name. Okay, RoboQuest. Check it out. It's good.
Check it out.
What else have you been playing, Rob?
I thought of 2 games I should have played this year, but I wouldn't have played because I'm backlogged up to hell, and that's the 2 Like a Dragon games that came out this year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like Ishin and The Man Who Erased His Name both seem super cool.
We'll be there.
And
you'll get through all the Yakuza content.
I need to start playing 2 a year to keep up now. Because Infinite Wealth is next year.
Are they actually making more than you?
They are making games faster than I play them at the moment, which is a problem. And
even though you were catching up on historical games, right?
Yeah, but I've only really been playing 1 a year, and it's I'm falling behind because they put 2 out next year. We're getting another one pretty soon in the Infinite Wealth. In fairness, we don't know what's happening after that, so maybe we'll get a little bit of a breather. Because RGG, man, they're putting in work. But Infinite Wealth is supposed to be enormous, like an absolute monstrous game. And the Yakuza games aren't small at the best of times.
Nope.
And even they're saying, no, this is big. So, oh boy, settle in. What have I been playing? The SNES Classic came out of the cupboard.
Okay.
Because I don't know. I just
Because I don't know.
Well, no, I know exactly why. There's a very good reason why it came out, but also like my Xbox died. Like I wanted to play my OG Xbox for a couple of things that one thing in particular that I've been keeping a little bit secret because it's a weird one. It's a weird one, but I will explain when it eventually happens. The
Dead or Alive beach volleyball.
no, that wouldn't be a secret. I'm all over that. You do actually own that, don't
Yes. That wasn't actually a joke.
No.
Rob does actually own that game already.
I didn't. I
Not
didn't buy
intentionally,
it.
obviously.
Yeah, I got given a copy. So my OG Xbox, the DVD drive on it has finally died. So cue me actually taking apart my Xbox, voiding the warranty. Oh no! And attempting to clean the DVD drive, which is actually a pretty easy task to do on the OG Xbox. It's actually quite accessible. I guess because it's so big and built like a PC, it's actually pretty easy to just take apart. Like it's not bad at all. But yeah, that unfortunately didn't help. So I'm now left in this situation where I don't really know what to do. Like I probably like the easiest option is to buy another OG Xbox and hope that drive lasts. But I think this is the next problem, right? The drives just aren't. The drive's lifespan seems to be a thing in the community. Like it's coming into question. Like they're just starting to fail. So getting a new one, whilst it might actually be the cheapest option to getting up and running, might not be a long-term solution. So I've thought about like, okay, how could I hack this thing? Is now the time I hack this thing? And it's like, well, that's really, really easy to do now. Apparently, you just need a copy of like there are certain games you need to find a copy of, like the original Splinter Cell or the original Mech Assault, which shouldn't be too tricky to track down. So once you've got those, like there are and a special USB cable that plugs into a controller port, so you can put a USB stick in there. There are ways to do that pretty easily. But then I was wondering, like, okay, so that would hack the Xbox, so I could run whatever I wanted on it. But then that thing's only got like an 8 gig hard drive. I couldn't really put many things on it at one time. I would basically have to probably load a disk ISO onto it and hope that would run and not screw up the rest of the hard disk space that's allocated for game saves and all that stuff, because I don't want to lose my saves. Years of work there. So I don't know what to do. Or buy a second Xbox and hack that one instead or something, or then try to move the drive over or something, or I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a purist. I like playing from the original stuff. I like putting my disc in the drive and feeling it ka-chunk, and then off you go. I like that. And if I hacked my Xbox, it's like emulation will get there eventually.
Yeah.
It's not perfect at the moment, but it will get there. And I'd need a much faster PC apparently to do it, because the games that are supposed to work on Zemu do not work very well on my machine at all. So I can't really do that route either. So that was a bummer. So the SNES came out and I played me some Star Fox. Because I had played the original Star Fox a little bit, like back in the day, a very tiny amount. But also, like when I first got the SNES Classic, I played it a little bit just to sort of be like, I don't really remember the original Star Fox. I'm more of a Lilac Wars guy. Let's see what this is like, and really had a hard time adjusting to it, because Super Effects games kind of run like garbage. Like they can't, they physically cannot run faster than 20 frames a second. That is a hardware limitation. and Star Fox doesn't really hit that. So it's it's a challenge. But I did manage to get through the normal course eventually, and beat the game classically. I haven't tried doing. There's 2 more routes you can take with different levels, and I haven't tried those yet. But I'll probably go back to that because Star Fox is a good time. And I much prefer Star Fox 1 to Star Fox 2, as it turns out, because that I hadn't played. And I thought, well, I should probably give this a go. I'm in that headspace. Let's try it. Star Fox 2 is a very different game. Sure, it's a Super Effects chip game, but it plays more like it's basically where the ideas for Star Fox Command began. So Star Fox Command was a DS game where that actually did come out, and you effectively get given a map, and you have to pilot. You draw where your crafts are going to go, almost Epic Yarn style, and they fly to thing, and then at the end of a turn, anything they encountered, you then fight in a sort of all range mode style battle. So it doesn't have any of these curated linear levels that you would probably normally associate with Star Fox,
right?
And Star Fox 2 is that as well. Star Fox 2 doesn't have linear, not exactly linear, curated experiences. It's more, most of the fights you'll do in space will be all range fights in space. So I guess it was the first game that had all range mode, technically, until Lilac, if you exclude the fact that it didn't come out. And it also introduced the chicken walker, right? So the R-Wings could transform into a walker, and you can have on-planet sections walking around, shooting stuff, going into bases, which is pretty impressive for the SNES to be able to do. It's neat. It's a shame it's just not as fun as normal Star Fox. It's just
no.
And also, I played through the normal difficulty mode a couple of times and beat it quite easy both times. Getting through it on the standard difficulty is a bit of a cakewalk. But then I put it in. It's got 3 difficulty levels, and I ratcheted it up by 1 to the middle level, and I just got my ass handed to me immediately. It gets so much harder, instantly. And it's. I don't know if I'll go back to it, honestly. It'll be nice to see some of the other areas and some of the other base designs, because that's sort of the other problem. The base designs, when you are doing the planetary stuff, they're the same every time. There's no real... There's not enough roguelitiness, I guess, to it, but I guess that wasn't too much of a thing then. But once you've done it, once, you kind of know what you're doing. And that's a bit of a problem. But so it'd be nice to see the other areas and hear the other music, which is kind of cool. And... stuff like that. But it's a strange beast. I can sort of understand why it didn't come out. If you put it next to Lilac Wars, that would have come out at nearly the same time. It's
Oh really?
Yeah, because it was very well. It wouldn't have been. Well, that was the story, right? That Star Fox 2 got cancelled because Lilac Wars wasn't far away, and they were seeing what they could pull off on the N64. I don't think the N64 was quite out yet, but Lilac Wars was well in development at that point, and they were just seeing what they could do there. And as a result, they were like, "Well, we don't really want to put Star Fox 2 out to potentially bring down the marketing that we're putting towards Ultra 64." See, we don't want to look like the weaker company, I guess, in the graphics arms race. So they just didn't put it out. I think PlayStation was already out. That didn't help, right? And Saturn was already out. So Nintendo putting out an inferior 3D product kind of had a bit of a curse, I think, in Nintendo's eyes. So even though the game was pretty much finished, it never came out. So SNES Classic was the first time it actually got officially released. Them's the tales of Star Fox. I actually played some Star Fox Command because after playing Star Fox 2, I was interested.
Right.
And was like, how does this hold up? And it's that game is, again, quite... It's weird. You have to get into the mindset for it, because I failed the first mission of the game when I first picked it up. So it's a similar thing. You're drawing out, you're telling Craft where to go. But they've made it more complicated in that there's a turn limit. for each level. There's like you can't let your ship you can't get your home ship, so your Great Fox, get destroyed. You can't let your fuel timer run out, and your fuel timer runs down whilst you're in combat. But you can find time pickups to increase that. Doesn't make a lot of sense. But also there's a turn limit, so like you can only move so far each turn. You can only so you're trying to head everyone off whilst also under this pressure that like if you run out of turns, like the mission fails as well. So there's very much like a blitz tactic to it, really. You've got to find the right path through the level to be like, I need to go this way to collect the enemies as I fly by, so I fight them and get them off the map, and then make my way to a base so I can destroy that and then unlock a few more turns, because that's how you get more turns. You have to go to a base or a mothership, and then it will give you a couple more turns, which you'll then need to then get to the rest of the stuff. And you only really finish levels when you clear everything off the map. So I guess it's trying to be tactics, but it's not really. It's a bit trial and error to be like, what is the path I actually need to take through this in order to, or the paths I need to send people in order to collect all the enemies so I can fight them. It's a strange thing, but to its credit, Star Fox Commander does go way further than what Star Fox 2 was trying to do. Yes, you don't have the walker; it is all flying, so they don't have that, but it's got a pretty rich branching story in there, so you can make decisions every now and then, like what you're going to do next, and that will change the story. And you're encouraged to play through it multiple times in order to try and get all the possible outcomes and unlock stuff. And it's a neat idea. I'm not entirely. I remember at the time thinking like I've beaten it several times, like I've gone through the story, and I found it. I remember back then, like I got to the point where I actually couldn't quite work out how to make other stories unlock.
Right.
Like I always seem to end up at a similar outcome, and it's like I'm not. What am I doing? Like, am I acing this too much? Is it about performance or is it about my choices? Like I could never quite work out what the difference was. But I'm playing it. Yeah, I'll dip in. I'll play it a bit more. And I need to know. I don't need to know.
Not really, but yeah, it's there.
But I guess Star Fox is my new arcade racer for now. Whilst I've been on that retro binge this year. Yeah, so I've been doing a bit of that. I also on DS, because I could, I've been playing Elite Beat Agents.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So for those that don't know, Elite Beat Agents is a rhythm game. It was the only one that was officially released in the US and Europe of this formula, of the Uenden formula. And this one obviously was Americanized and localized and has different music and
has Madonna and stuff. Yeah.
It has covers of Madonna and YMCA and Avril Lavigne and can't really remember any of the others. There's some Clapton maybe, but yeah, so I was going into it thinking, because I played at the time an import copy of Os Tatakai Uendan, the original, very Japanese, very much not localized, but had a blast with it, and got pretty good at it at one point. And so I was trying to get back into this, and I just don't think the vibe translates to the American version.
Style.
It's like it's pretty close. Like they're trying to follow the exact same formula. Like the way the story's set up, the way you're going to do, like, because that's one of the great things about Os Tatakai Uendan was just the setups were always like quite well presented as a comic strip. Like even if you didn't understand the Japanese, you knew what was going on,
right? And
it was kind of entertaining with the animations and what was happening. It was pretty neat. You know, when you've got a level where a horse race gets interrupted by a thief and the horse decides to be the hero and go do something about it, so you're cheering on the horse to go save the day. That's great. Like I like that. Yeah, but like in Elite Beat Agents, obviously there's some, as the name will suggest, they're now an undercover agency rather than a cheer squad, like a random group of dudes that just go way on the side. Like now they're actual agents that step in and somehow dance the problems away, and like just that little detail, just that little change somehow makes it not work.
It's changing it from like being
stupid into
stupid and like because you call it like politely enthusiastic in a Japanese way,
right?
Like they're just doing it because they're good people who want to cheer you on. Whereas in the Americanized version, it's because they're government agents who are making people do good because that's what the government does.
Well, like Wendon also has the thing where they're like the cheer squad is like a known entity. So when people are in trouble, they like scream "Uenda!"
Right? Yes. Like
and they're sort of, most of the time they're just sort of already there, which is
naturally
great. And they're just sort of like, oh, okay, let's do some stuff. And those setups normally look great. Whereas Elite Beat agents, like, it doesn't quite work because they'll do the story. The person will shout, help! Like, which isn't just as cool. It just isn't as cool as, Uendan! But then, like, the pacing is ruined because then they have a second cutaway then to some dude sitting in a chair, like in mission control.
Oh, right. That's a radio them in.
Yeah, who then says, like agents are go! So you get another one of these, like, shout moments, but you always get that one, and it just doesn't, like, agents are go just isn't as cool. Like, I don't know. I mean, it was Thunderbirds are go cooler. I think it might be. But agents are go is not cool. So it doesn't quite flow. To their credit, they have added some extra like features so you can skip the story a bit easier,
right,
or skip to the actual song a bit quicker if you're trying to retry levels and things like that. But that's also where it falls apart because because the music is Americanized and Europeanized, it's just not as interesting or as fun. Like I just care about it less. Like the YMCA level is pretty fun. I'll give them that, But yeah, I'm just not really into these versions, especially because they're covers as well, and I guess because our ear is more attuned to the originals. Like I think there were covers in Wendon as well. In fairness, but they were pretty good covers, and it's like I'm less convinced by them here. But that just might be your ear, right? To be used to the language. So I went and played some Wendon and anyway, so because. It wasn't released over here, so I'm playing it on an R4 cart. Spoilers.
Which you had from back in the day?
No, that's not mine. That's not my R4 cart. I am borrowing it. But yeah, I played some Wendon instead on that thing, and that holds up. It just holds up. It's a great game. I do occasionally run into trouble with my DS, like I get those things are getting old, right? And the touch sensitivity isn't perfect in places.
Well, especially if your screen is worn in specific ways.
Yeah, there's a spot towards the top left of the screen where it gets a little bit wobbly, and you can see that on Star Fox Command when you're trying to draw the flight
you draw
path.
a line for it,
and which is actually really detrimental to you in Star Fox Command because you draw the line, and it if it's not a straight line, you're actually burning more fuel, and you don't travel as far. So that can be a right pain in the ass to draw it again until it gets it right. And I'm using an old DS Lite that I bought off eBay to do this. And don't get me wrong, this is way better than the touchscreen on my old DS, which is balked beyond belief. So at least I can play it. But yeah, man, Wendon's a good game. And there was a sequel that I've never played, so maybe I need to try and also acquire that by illicit means. But yeah, Wendon's cool. Seek it out if you've got a DS. I wouldn't recommend playing it with like emulation unless you're one of those do you remember those? I mean, we've watched videos of people playing a Wendon on touchpads, where the screen wasn't even on the touchpad.
You're using a tablet basically, but not like a tablet, like a drawing tablet.
Yeah, how did people do that? That's insane.
Using like a Wacom tablet.
Yeah. But not the fancy new ones that are basically screens. It's I don't know.
Although that would work.
Oh yeah, that would totally work. But yeah, I guess you could use a Surface, I suppose, like a Microsoft Surface or something like that. But yeah, it's clearly the way to play is with a stylus in your hand. It's a cool game. Like it a lot. I'm sure I'm missing some stuff, but the other thing I've started playing is on Xbox. I am playing Fist, which I mentioned earlier, which is a Metroidvania. I think it's Chinese made. where you play a mechanized bunny rabbit who basically carries a giant mechanical fist on his back, hence the name.
Except his fist is an acronym, isn't it?
Well, yeah, the game's subtitle is Forged in Shadow Torch, which
Right.
clearly makes very little sense. Like, the city is called Torch City.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure where the shadow part comes
Well,
from.
you're going to transfer to the shadow dimension at some point, probably.
I guess. It didn't need the acronym. They could have just
Of
called it
course not.
Fist and got away with it. It's fine. I mean, the weapon's just called the Fist, so it immediately explains
Is that an
itself.
acronym? Or is it
No,
literally?
no, they just call it the Fist. I think it was because it's the fist part of what was once a bigger mech.
Sure, I guess that makes sense.
So they just call it the Fist. But everyone seems to know it's called the Fist. I don't know why. This game's pretty good.
Mm.
I'd heard Easy Allies talk about it when it came out like a year or two ago, and I think Huber was the one that was saying, "Don't sleep on Fist. Fist is good," and he's not wrong. It's pretty decent. So the setup is like Torch City is a pretty like grimy it's bad times in Torch City, right? It's like the Chinese. It's like it's got that Chinese aesthetic to it, that slightly Oriental thing, but also like a grimy Victorian vibe to it. So it's like somewhere in between Oliver and and Hong Kong. It's like it's got a cool look to it. And it's on hard times. Basically, the Furtisans, as they call them, because obviously they're all animals, they're all furries, they're all anthropomorphized animals. Yeah, the Furtisans have been they got defeated by the I think they're called they're basically referred to as the Legion most of the time, but they're basically robots. Like it's an army of robots. So the class divide between
living
and not, yeah. And they've basically taken over, and Furtisans are kind of second class basically in this universe, in this city, and the Legion, although it's like they're living side by side. They're not really. They're living under the Legion and are oppressed by it. And you're a veteran of the war, because of course you are. That's why you have this mech and this fist. And then your friend gets kidnapped for basically doing shady stuff, doing some shady stuff against the Legion, and you get dragged into the whole affair. Because you just want to save your mate, but then things are revealed.
But then you discover what was actually going on.
Yeah, a bigger plot reveals itself. So it's a sort of melee combat focused style Metroidvania. Obviously, you gain more abilities as you go on, and then you get the abilities to go to more areas. Blah 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 blah. All of that is as you would expect. But I'm constantly surprised by given that this isn't really like a full blown title, but I am surprised by just how well this is made. Like, it comes together pretty well. Sure, it's got some rough edges, like the music thing I mentioned earlier. That's a bit of a weird black mark, and the sound bugs in the vocals, that's a bit strange. It also does this little I mentioned when I was talking about Planet of Lana before, I said I was there's these mildly annoying fades to black, which seemed like, well, if this was a real slick production, they wouldn't need to do that. They would just slide straight into it from here.
Right.
There was no need for that. This does that every time you move into a new room. So there's a weird, it's very quick, but there's a weird fade up from black, and sometimes the environment hasn't properly loaded fast enough.
So the fade isn't even covering the thing that it's meant to cover, really.
Most of the time it's the lighting that hasn't caught up. So that it's not just ambient occlusion and stuff. There's actual light sources just haven't turned on, it seems, for a split second before. So you get this. There are some parts of the game where you get this unfortunate juddering, and you can sort of. And that sort of extends to the animation as well. It's a little bit like Thirsty Suitors in the sense that there are spots in this game where the animation is surprisingly great, really quite well done, and the fidelity is neat. But then there are other spots where it's really pretty ropey. It's a very mixed bag. The cutscenes are great, for instance, when they do a proper full-on cutscene, some of which are video and very poorly compressed video. I should point that out. But when they do those cutscenes, it's the animation quality is decent, and it's got when you, I'm quite a lot of hours into this actually, because I've sort of binged it in a couple of sittings. And I think I'm probably only halfway through it at this point. But it's got a good combo sort of system that sort of opens up over time. So you're encouraged to not just punch someone in the face, but if you can get them lifted and air juggle them around a bit, not quite to the extent that was in the other rabbit-based combat game, the name I can't remember, that we've done a video of on the site. You know the one. It's not quite as ridiculous air comboing as that game was, but yeah, you're encouraged to learn the timings and get stuff together, so you juggle people around so they're not in your face and doing more damage to them, because there can be quite a lot going on in some of the fights. So you need to be, and there's no, or even though it has like a dash escape, you're not invulnerable doing your dash. So and you can't pass through people with your dash. You do have to manage your space, and you can't use that dash to cancel out of attacks. So you have to be pretty deliberate with the way you face the combat. And it just comes together the whole thing hangs together pretty well. It's a few rough edges, but I'm enjoying my time with it. Thank you, Easy Allies. You were right.
Nice.
Don't know when it came out. I think it's like a 2021 game, something like that. But it's but it's good. It's good. Just like RoboQuest, just ignore the somewhat stupid name, I guess. Like, and Bunny Rabbit Box. No, it's neat. I'm sure there's more, but that's all I can think of right now.
Okay.
I played not video game talk, but over the last couple of days, I've played several rounds of Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza, which is a
goat cheese pizza.
Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza,
Okay.
which is it's kind of like a Snap adjacent party game. Like, not quite. I mean, it's got similarities to Dobble, I guess.
Snap adjacent.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
So, like, basically, so the game works by, like, you saying you're at the start of a round. Everyone is when everyone plays a card and you play a card blind, you don't know what's coming up at your deck next. You say the next word in sequence. So it's like taco, cat, goat, and if the card you play matches the word you're saying, then everyone has to slap in, and it's the last person that slaps in that then picks up the deck, and it's Uno rules, essentially. You want to clear your hand, clear your deck. But I'm playing it with some people who are, let's say they're not small people. They're quite large, not in the, like... but
Heavy hand slapping.
Yeah. My hand is injured. Like, my hand actually
You were winning, but were you?
Yeah. Was it worth it? It really did actually hurt quite a lot towards the end. And like, even now, even like today, I could, like, I'm just move, if I move my hand at certain angles, like, I'm sure there's some bruises in there somewhere. Yeah, be careful who you play that game with. It's fun, and there's more. There are other mechanics to make you do stupid actions as well as the simple snap rules, but they all involve a slap at some point. And it's yeah, take care of your hands.
Also, don't play Power Simulator.
Yeah.
So that one, and then Pizza Tower eventually. Is that
Yeah, I guess so. All the pizza games of the
all
year.
the pizza games, the pizza genre?
And that is the next video that's going to come out on the channel, probably.
Is
Yes,
from
it
that
will.
genre?
Yeah, it's from that genre.
game.
Yeah,
Oh,
that is that game. We've done a video of Pizza Tower.
Excellent. Yeah. That'll be coming up on our YouTube channel then. Is that the next one then? Oh, amazing.
Wow.
Okay.
If we stay in sequence, which is normally recommended for us, like, so
Okay.
it'll be a while till you see Sonic Adventure Part 2, because Sonic Adventure Part 1 came out today.
Yes. Yeah, check that out on our YouTube channel, Happy Salad. And you know where to find the podcast. They're here on where you found this one.
Wherever that was.
Whatever
It
you
could have
did,
been
do that
on
again.
our website, happysalad.net, or it could have just been on iTunes or whatever it's called now. That doesn't exist, does it? what's it called? Podcasts, I guess.
Just Apple Music, isn't it?
The
Like,
podcast. Yeah, there is no iTunes. But I'm sure you can find us on whatever podcatcher.
Microsoft Groove.
Is that a thing?
It was. It's very dead now.
Get a Zune.
Yeah, get us on your Zune. Yeah. I think that'll do it for this podcast. I hope you enjoyed our summary of the year and what we've been up to. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks with another one of these here Saladcasts.
Well, hang on. Before we go,
Yeah.
can we just have Dan's quick 5-second review of the first 2 Fast and Furious films?
The first one's better. Right?
Yep.
Agreed. Yeah, the second one is definitely a more formulaic, just action film, I guess. But like, not-
Yeah, it had some
It's
moments,
fine.
I guess.
Yeah.
The second one, I quite like the bit where they just run down the end, but in cars to the thing, and then come back twice,
right?
or
Yeah.
whatever. That was quite a good, stupid challenge.
The drag race.
They're like,
Well,
run
yeah,
to
sort
the-
of drag race.
run to the tire and back twice, and if we win, we keep your cars. Okay, fine. Of course, they're
People
gonna
seem
agree
way
to
too
that.
way too ready
Yeah.
to just agree to
I
challenges
totally
like
agree
that.
to that. Yeah. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Vin Diesel really made that first one. I'm looking forward to him coming back in subsequent Fast and Furious films that
With
we
all his
will
granny
hopefully watch.
shifting and double clutching nonsense.
Not double clutching like you should.
whatever that statement even means.
I mean, double clutching was a thing that you had to do like in a mini rally car, wasn't it? A Monte Carlo rally, right? I think it's a rallying technique. It's not for
Drag
for
racing.
like drag racing. I don't think.
Well,
Anyway.
I think like the normal thing is like left foot, right? Left foot braking, where
Sure,
you're
yeah.
running the clutch and the brake at the same time.
Hmm.
Well, if they even use a clutch, like they don't anymore, right? Presumably, it's all like paddle shifters.
Well, yeah, in rally, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, like,
It's all synchronized.
they might still use a clutch in rally, even if it's a paddle shifter, because of the reason you'd want to use a clutch in a rally car.
Yeah, it's maybe it has a manual clutch. Yeah, so you can just disengage and then re-engage to cause a fling.
Yeah. Well, there's our film review section at the
There
end.
we go. We got it.
We'll catch you next time. Bye, guys. Bye.
Why?